Calling to order the hearing of the Historic Resources Commission here on Thursday, May 19th at 4:08 p.m. Thank you for the slight delay here as we work through some technology glitches. The next business meeting of the commission will be Thursday, June 2nd, 2022 at noon here in room 204, 111 North Front Street on the second floor, with the next hearing of the commission being Thursday, June 16th, 2022 at 4 p.m., room 204, 111 North Front Street on the second floor. Honey, if you could raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth in your testimony before the commission this evening?
I do. Colleen Corbett, Assistant Historic Preservation Officer.
Wonderful, thank you. With staff being sworn in, I'd like to introduce the commissioners here and present, starting on my right.
Clyde Henry.
Joseph McCabe, Chair.
Mega Sinha.
Thank you. Connie, is there anything for public forum this evening?
We have no public forum.
Okay. Hearing no public forum, moving on to the approval of staff approvals.
I move to approve the staff approvals.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion passes. Moving on to the approval of the minutes from the last meeting, April 21st, 2022.
So moved.
A motion, is there a second? A motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, minutes approved, motion passes. Moving on to staff reports and applications for a certificate of appropriateness. Connie.
Okay, agenda item number 1, 904 East Broad Street for removal of gutters. This application was moved to staff approval at the May 5th HRC business meeting. COA has been issued and no action is required. Agenda item number 2, 35 West Jeffrey Place. This will be, we need a motion to continue to allow time for the applicant to make revisions to this, the plan that's requested in the business meeting.
I move to continue.
There's a motion to continue.
Second.
The motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion passed, case continued. Case number 3.
633 South Ohio for a retaining wall. This application is moved to staff approval at the May 5th HRC business meeting. A CUA has been issued, no action required.
Thank you. Case number 4.
170 West Jeffrey Place. This is conceptual. I think,
Is there going to be a
Leslie
second for case number 4?
come up, please.
Good afternoon, sir. That's all right. If you could raise your right hand when you do you swear to tell the truth in your testimony before the commission this evening?
Do.
Wonderful. If you could state your full name and association with the property for record.
Leslie Dunlap, tenant.
Thank you, sir. Connie.
Okay, this is a request to retain existing metal storage shed. The shed was installed prior to review and approval, and the application was continued from the April 21st HRC hearing to allow applicant time to submit a plan to modify and/or screen the shed. May 5th business meeting comments included. The provided rendering is very minimal, but building a structure over the existing metal shed could be the right direction. Measure drawings and product cut sheets for all materials will need to be submitted. Provide an overall photo view of the house and sunroom, and so the commission can understand the context. Additional information was submitted following the business meeting that includes a plan to build a wooden frame around the metal shed with horizontal wood siding to extend approximately 40 inches down from the top, which would be the area visible above the existing fence. This is still conceptual, that would provide comments for conceptual review with no action required.
Do you have anything to add, sir?
No, sir.
My understanding going back to photos of this originally was it was an agricultural structure erected for additional storage to keep lawn care in.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
I should have put a photo in there of that, but I didn't.
So your proposal is to build this over the top of that?
Yes, sir. That was based on, that was based on the last meeting I came to. It's one of the things you guys said you consider.
I think still that, let the other commission members speak. But I mean, I think for me, I don't object to modification of the structure. The structure doesn't fit as is. But I don't think that I can conceptually support a drawing like this. It doesn't have any appropriate trims or details or any relevant information yet to reflect the historical nature of the neighborhood. Clyde,
Yeah, I'm trying to recall the original building. This was the building that's next to the garage, right? With sort of-
Yes, the white and metal.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I agree. I can't really tell what this is. I look at this and it looks like gray plexiglass or something on there, and it's hard to kind of understand what it is. I'm also trying to visualize it over the structure. And is this going to kind of be this thing that hangs down, I guess, the fence level?
Yes,
I think what we had in mind was more a reshaping of the roof, maybe? Is that what
yeah,
we
I
talked
think,
about?
I mean, I think staff indicated, concern for the roll up or the type of door on the unit that doesn't address that. I think the appropriateness all the way to the ground is still a concern, how it looks. The roof and the profile shape of it was a concern. Yes, this maybe starts to square it off, but it's going to require trims and details beyond just kind of leaving some bare posts.
Is the structure that's there, is it all metal or is it wood stud inside with metal siding on it? Do you know?
Yeah.
The whole thing is metal.
yes.
Okay, so it's a kind of like a prefab metal, sheet metal screw type of thing. What is it?
He's going to pull it up.
Yeah, because I thought our discussion was that we want to find a way to camouflage,
Right.
cover it up. And if I understand what you're suggesting with the posts, you can still pretty much see it, right?
Yes, ma'am. My recollection was screening it so it couldn't be seen over the
Well,
fence.
I think that that's still one piece of it. You're going to have to still make an effort to screen it, but it still has to address all sides of it adequately in a way that makes it fit. And right now, you're dealing with just the top piece of it, but you're still doing nothing to the rest of it.
So I must have completely misunderstood the last meeting. Because what I recall from the last meeting, concern was it being seen over the fence.
That's just one of the concerns. But, when we look at this as a whole still doesn't fit the architecture of the neighborhood. It's a prefabricated, agricultural structure. It has no link to the house, no link to the existing garage even. You still see a great amount of it.
I'll just have to, based on the comment, I really don't know what I'm saying.
We have guidelines, the structure did not come through the approval process. It's unfortunate that you didn't seek approvals and proper permitting before you put up the structure.
But again, you need to reflect the fact, I'm a tenant there. I was not aware.
If you're a tenant there, though, that's between you and your owner.
I understand that. I don't want to be seen as someone who was rogue and did what I wanted to do. Because that's the tone it sounds like those statements keep making. I was not just randomly doing something. I had no idea there was a historic community. I had no idea there was a process to come through this board until the city inspector came. So it was not just,
We understand that, but we cannot change that.
I didn't ask you to.
Yeah, no, I think, yeah, we're not blaming you. So yeah, that tone came across, that wasn't our intention.
Just comes
So no,
across.
that's not our intention. So we understand that you did it unknowingly, but this is where we are. So
Because the code officer, the code violation actually goes to the property owner. So, you know, it's unfortunate that the property owner didn't inform you.
But likewise, you know, your property owner should be the responsible person,
And they are the actual.
you know, seeing to make sure that you get building permits, you know, it lies with the property owner.
I have no problem with that. And my only statement is, you personally, sir, keep making statements. Like in the first meeting, you said if we allow him to get away with this, other people in the community are gonna feel free to go do what they want.
It does
That
set
is
precedent
not
for
my
allowing this type of structure.
It's not my intention.
Even if you were the owner, sir, we would be saying the same thing, which is we cannot allow a structure that's non-conforming that doesn't fit the neighborhood to be built, because then it allows for other people to make that same case.
I'm not arguing that.
well, thank you for trying. Thank you.
So I will report that as no action taken because it was conceptual.
Correct. Thank you.
And the code, it will be, code officer will be.
Case number 5.
580 East Rich Street. This is new construction. They request to be continued to the June 16th agenda. We have a motion to continue.
So moved.
Second.
Hearing a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. Case continued. Case number 6.
One-way West Royal Forest. This was to install a new rubber roof. The application is moved to staff approval at the May 5th HRC business meeting. A COA has been issued and no action required.
Great. Case number 7.
2051 North 4th Street. This is for landscaping and parking. The application was continued from the April 21st HRC hearing to allow the time to submit revised drawings. No new materials have been submitted. I haven't heard from them, so I'm going to contact them again and ask them if they want to withdraw or if they are going to submit. They would have to submit by. So, in the meantime, continue, and if they decide to withdraw, I'll let you know that.
Move to continue.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion passes. Case continued. On to new.
Could we get a little louder?
We're speaking as loud as we can. If you want to move up to the front row, sir, there's a few additional seats. On to case number 8.
For those who want to come up for this one, the whole beach wall historic district, the shared bike.
If you could both raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth in your testimony before the commission this evening? Yes. You could each state your full name and association with the property for record.
My name is Louis Tava. I'm a planner 2 with the City of Columbus Planning Division. I also staff at the Downtown Commission.
Terry Stewart, professional engineer with the Department of Public Service here, Division of Design and Construction.
Thank you.
Okay, this is the City of Columbus Urban Infrastructure Recovery Fund managed by the Department of Development. It's designed a 10-foot maximum width shared use path, approximately 200 linear feet. That will connect the Olentangy Boulevard to West Redford Avenue on a City of Columbus owned parcel. The project includes wayfinding signage north and south in the right of way through Old Beach Walk. For CC 3117.04D, the HRC makes recommendations as to any alteration, rehabilitation, or demolition proposed for a city-owned property, park, or right-of-way listed in the Columbus Register of Historic Properties. That's why the commission comments on these types of projects. The current project extends from Weisheimer Road on the south, which is the Beach Wall South neighborhood, through Old Beach Wall into Girard Road on the north, which is the Delawanda neighborhood. It passes along city right-of-way and city park property in the Old Beach Wall Historic District. The Clintonville Area Commission will also provide a recommendation regarding the overall project. Aspects of the project still in discussion with the CAC and neighborhood association include the width of the path through the park and the size and number of directional signs. I've provided some standards for site improvements, which say in part, landscaping, parking, utility or service areas, walkways, and similar improvements should be compatible to each other and to the subject building or structures, as well as to adjacent contributing properties, open spaces, and the overall environment. And signs are regulated by certain chapters of code that shall also be in keeping with the character of the adjacent environment. By comments and recommendations with regard to the aesthetics of the project. I think we have some speakers. If there's anyone who's not filled out a speaker slip who wants to speak, make sure that you do that and bring it up to me, then I'll provide it to the chair. Thank you.
Turning over to the applicant for additional comments.
Sure, thank you. Hunter, can you go to the page that shows kind of like the connector aerial, the line in the neighborhood? Keep going. Go. Go up one. That one's, and that's the, it shows all of like, the middle and it shows the connector in the dark line. While he's finding that, what we're here for today is, this is a DPS project, that's why Terry's here. He is the, as he said, the project engineer and the design project manager. I am here because this project is also a UIRF project. Are you familiar with UIRF projects, the Urban Infrastructure Recovery Funds? Planning helps manage those projects, so I'm assisting with the project. What we're here for is phase 2 of the Clintonville North-South Bike Facility. Oh, thank you, Hunter, that's it. Exactly. So it is the dark black line there. You can see it goes from the Grace Lane Shopping Center in the north down to Weisheimer, I believe, in the south. This is phase 2. Phase 1 was completed in 2018, and it consists mostly of signage and street markings, and it ended at Weisheimer. This is phase 2, which will connect all the way up to Graceland. So what we're here for today is we're seeking a recommendation for approval from this commission for the director of DPS, Department of Public Services. We'll also be going to the Clintonville Area Commission in June for a recommendation from them as well. And the point of this connector is it's to connect the residents in the south with the Graceland Shopping Center in the north, to create connectivities between the different neighborhoods, Delawanda, South Beach Wall, Old Beach Wall. It is to provide a safe route for pedestrians and residents who bike. And part of it is that it passes through Old Beach Wall. So the history of this project is that it was endorsed by the Clintonville Area Commission in 2015. The details of the bikeway network were agreed to again by the commission and the community in 2017. This was a UIRF project, and its inception what came from public outreach and a survey we did. Beyond that, it's also listed in the Clintonville Neighborhood Plan in 2009. It calls for not this specific plan, but for more bicycle connectivity and north-south bike routes. And it was further stressed in the adoption of the Clintonville Mobility Plan in 2015, which shows this connector in the mobility plan. That mobility plan was approved by the commission. So since 2017, shares and signs and bike boulevard markings were implemented throughout the project as phase 1, and this here would complete that connection. So if you want to go through the slides, Hunter, we can just talk it through.
Just real quick too, Connie, from my. Is the entirety of this dark line in district, or what piece of this is actually in the district? Show me where the district starts and ends. Okay,
Here.
so we would only consider any impact of the bike trail as it fits between those two roads, just so the commission was clear. Anything north of that line or south of that line, that would not be our purview to even discuss it.
That's correct, yes. So as you can see, Hunter will go through some of the slides. Hopefully you've had a chance to look them over. The project is going to be mostly signage and street markings. There's going to be 17 signs in Old Beach Wall. These are the same signs that are used throughout Clintonville as part of the bike route projects that have already been implemented. And it will have a component that is a shared use path that goes through park property on the north end of Beach Wall, where there's currently a dirt path. There it is as well.
For clarity, this is the only non-street surface proposed.
So this is asphalt. This will be an asphalt and is the only thing that is not going to be going.
On an existing road, though.
That's correct. The rest will just be signage.
Okay.
So those just give you some details of it. It's pretty straightforward. The support for this, as I indicated, also comes from the neighborhood plan. Neighborhood plan itself states, if I could real quick, it says, people will be able to get around by walking, car, transit, and bicycle. Each neighborhood should be able to offer residents transit service, well-connected and maintained sidewalks, on-street bike amenities, and bike paths that are safe and that link neighborhoods with shopping, cultural, and employment centers. Whether it is walking to the corner to buy milk or biking to the nearest library branch, people seek such alternatives to the car because of health, social, environmental, and financial benefits. And then the plan also states that
Sorry. Then go to the bottom.
so the plan also states that the multi-purpose trails in Clintonville should be 10 to 12-foot paved shared use paths. So a lot of the feedback, so we're coming to you is for a recommendation and any comments or conditions you might have for this proposal. As Connie indicated, there has been a lot of talk or requests that that the path is too wide. I would say these are designed, the shared use path is designed for safety in mind, to make sure that pedestrians and bikers have enough width to get by each other. In addition to that, I'll say that there are probably over 100 houses in Old Beach Wall. They all have asphalt or they have driveways, many of them asphalt, that range between 10 and 16 feet wide. So we feel that contextually, this isn't anything out of the norm. It's like an additional driveway from the view. There's also going to be talk, there may be too many signs. The purpose for the signage is that this is a connector. we don't want the end destination point to be Old Beach Walls. We want people to get through the neighborhood and route them correctly. You can get lost in Old Beach Wall pretty easily, as I found out driving through there. And so the signs are for that reason, just to help people get through the neighborhood. And that the signs are too large. These signs have been in South Beach Walled and in the rest of Clintonville, and we haven't had any complaints about the size of signage. To give you an example, a stop sign is 30 inches by 30 inches. So these are all just standards. Forward to hearing your feedback and any conditions you may have.
Connie, customarily, when we have this many slips that we hear from public first prior to our own discussion. If anybody that wishes to speak this evening, you'll be called up individually. You'll have 3 minutes to discuss your concerns for the project. We'll do this very orderly. We'll swear each of you in. And if you have not filled out a slip, please feel free to do so. They're in the back corner of the room and immediately get them up to Connie. Let's start with, this is the first slip here. Beth Hoffman, please, if you could approach the podium. And Beth, if you could raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth in your testimony before the commission this evening?
I do.
Wonderful. If you could state your full name and address for record.
Elizabeth Hoffman, 252 West Weather Place. Can you hear me okay?
Thank you. Please start.
Yeah, so I'm one of the neighbors adjoining the property where the bike path is going to go. And, really, I think we all agree that we want more connectivity, but what we really object to is the width of the path and the asphalt. We feel like right now we have a path that everybody enjoys. It's a curvilinear path that goes through the woods, and it's very pleasant. And people come down there and walk their dogs. The majority of people who use it, are walkers. They're primarily there are a few bikers, but primarily walkers who enjoy the experience. And as far as the historic commission goes, I think they've already taken out from this narrow strip of land, one of the few remaining green spaces in Old Beach Wall. They've taken out 3 large trees that were 6 to 8 feet in diameter. And as you know, that Old Beach Wall, the historic designation is in large part based on the naturalistic environment, combining extensive landscaping along with, large trees and forested area. So, and I think this detracts from that by putting in this, not very curvy, wide asphalt path. It's, wide enough to be a road in Europe. So, that is, we feel that it should be made of a different material, that they would use crushed asphalt or crushed gravel or something like that, that would be more blended with the environment more. And also the trees that have been taken out, I know that the city has a formula that they used for how many trees replace, a major tree that's taken out. And and I think that number of trees, or 3 large trees that were taken out, would be significant, and those are not being replaced here. So I feel that they should be replacing those large deciduous trees with deciduous trees. There are a few understory, I think, hemlocks going in, but other than that, while we appreciate the plantings that they are talking about, and we would be, really grateful for that. But I think the asphalt, the width of it, and the material is primary objection from my perspective. Thank you. Any questions?
Just real quick, if you say that you don't like the current width? What in your mind is? Sorry about that. What in your mind is the perfect width of the path?
Well, I would, right now what we have is 2 to 3 feet, maybe 2 to 3 feet of packed dirt, which has been serving us just fine. The old beach wall, we were told that, this part of this path is for old beach wall. Well, our residents don't want it, for one thing. We're really happy with the path that we have. It certainly serves our needs, and seems to serve most of Delawanda. We get a lot of, people going back and forth, and
Okay, thank you. I would ask Mark Moritz to come forward. Sir, if you could raise your right hand. You swear to tell you the truth in your testimony before the commission this evening.
I do.
Wonderful. If you could state your full name and address for record.
My name is Mark Lawrence. I'm in 83 Dealing Avenue, Columbus, Ohio.
Wonderful. Thank you. You have 3 minutes.
We also use the bike path or the connector. And we is my family of 4, 2 teenage daughters. They use it to get to Graceland. Bike. But as it is now, it doesn't serve our purposes. We can get through, but it's muddy, it's short, and it's dangerous. You can slip if it's raining. The pedestrian can slip, cyclists can slip. And this connector is really important because there's no safe biking for my daughters. So the shortest way would be High Street. I would not live, or I would not able to live to sleep well because I would be always worried that I could get hurt. So the bikeway connector is great for kids living south of Beachball to get to Graceland, to get to shopping. That's it's also quite important for connecting neighborhoods. So this connector is not just for beach balls and other neighborhoods, but it's important for all cyclists and pedestrians. I'm from Europe. I'm from the Netherlands. We cycle there all the time. Cycling makes it a little bit better. Standing this is the historic committee. Made a comment that there's a proposal for an asphalt bikeway. There's currently asphalt driveways. So cars are not historic either. There's plenty of cars, plenty of driveways. I would argue that bikes are historic and that having a bike connector is important. It's part of the history of the neighborhood.
Thank you. If I could have David Adams come forward. You could raise your right hand, sir. Do you swear to tell the truth in your testimony before the commission this evening?
I do.
Wonderful. Thank you. If you could state your full name and address for the record.
I'm David Adams. I'm at 167. I live at 167 Ceramic Drive, which is a little over a mile south, just directly south from the proposed connector. And I am the kind of person, it's not only for children, I'm the kind of person who is unable to use the connector now and will use it frequently if the proposal goes forward. I want to thank the city planning staff for their work on this and their comments and their thoughtfulness on it. And I agree that the width is important for safety. And aggregate is not accessible for wheelchairs, for some strollers, for my bike. We need a paved trail there for that to work for accessibility to the shopping area just north of there. And I frequently drive up there. But because I not only won't trust kids, but I won't trust myself, I don't feel safe myself on High Street, I never bike up there. But if this connector opens up, I will bike up there frequently, perhaps walk up there sometimes. And so I think this is important to have a paved trail. The crushed aggregate doesn't for a lot of us. And I, I would have the same observation when I visited Old Beachville recently, that the planning official just mentioned that there are a lot of driveways, not only asphalt, but concrete, that are much wider than this proposed path, not to mention the streets themselves. I think there's plenty of ways we can make sure that a safe, wide path doesn't, it isn't open to car traffic, but it's safe for both pedestrians and strollers, for cyclists. And the one upgrade I would welcome would be turning it into a concrete pathway instead of an asphalt pathway. It lasts longer, it's more durable. A lot of people find it aesthetically more pleasing. I know it costs more, but it also is just much more pleasant to cycle. But I just want to speak up as a resident of Cliftonville. I see nothing that would change the word. I value historical character of neighborhoods and individual structures a lot. I pay a lot of attention to them around the city of Columbus and elsewhere. And I see nothing in this proposal that would violate the historical quality and characteristics of the beach. Thank you.
If I could have Monica Zimmerman, please, to the board. You could raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth in your testimony before the commission this evening?
I do.
If you could state your full name and address for file.
Monica B. Zimmerman. I live at 267 Gerard Road, just the last street in Delmona there before Graceland. And I am so excited to hear about this nectar going to happen. I'm getting up in years. I've served my community. I've lived most of my life in Cliftonville. I spent many, many decades as an oncology nurse at Ohio State University. But that's done a bit of a number on my legs and feet. And as I recovered from a knee problem, I was trying to walk through Old Beachville. It's beautiful. And I love that, talking to the neighbors with the walking dogs and all that. But there are days, my physical therapist said I have to use 2 trekking poles. And they get stuck in the mud or they get stuck in the weeds. And some days I just take a look at them. And my daughter and her husband and her 3 lovely children live about a mile away, just south of Old Beachville. And the 7 and 9-year-old are just about ready to be able to ride their bikes to come see grandma. And I don't want them on my street. And actually, my daughter, a few years back, was coming through there on her bike and had her baby, a baby carrier, and it was muddy on that curvy, muddy path. And the wheel slipped, the bike went down, and mom and baby fell. And thank goodness they're young and resilient and didn't have any serious injuries. I'm not young and resilient. If I go down, I may not have that kind of luck. So I'm really excited and I love the ravine. I love to go through there when my foot's bothering now. I can't have been able to walk since mid-April, but I love to walk to the ravine and just, stand or sit there. I take a wheelchair with me. And I enjoy that. And I love, the beautiful homes in there. I love enjoying the architecture. That's part of, originally, the history of Old Beachville, it was going to be a zoo. It was going to be a park. It was going to be for people to enjoy. And, walkers aren't noisy, cyclists aren't noisy. We can quietly walk through and enjoy the beautiful yards, beautiful houses, the beautiful architecture, and not, into ourselves, getting there back. It connects me to nature, connects me to my family, connects me to my neighbors. I love the concept of nectar. Please find a way to make it work. Curves might look beautiful, but they are not good for old lady nurses that are retired. I like the idea of a nice flat path. Please approve it.
If I could have Gail Mahaffey. Raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth before the commission this evening? If you could state your full name and address for record.
Going to have 223 West Signage Boulevard.
Wonderful.
So I have one question.
You could speak in just a little bit.
I have more question. What I was interested in knowing has kind of been addressed is the straightness of the path, material, and the width. Something these are all things that are still up for discussion. And I think from a historic perspective, the wide, relatively straight path is not really keeping like that has narrow streets and hardly any that are straight. So that's my only comment is that if we could continue the considerations to the narrower, keeping in mind that we want people to be safe, obviously, and that there is a little bit more of a curve to it again, so that it is more aesthetically pleasing and keeping the park-like nature of our neighborhood. And then with regard to the service, I'm learning some things from the bikers today about the service. I think my interest in the service of not having asphalt put down is from an environmental standpoint. We know that that land underneath the asphalt becomes toxic. So I love the idea of potentially being cement, which is a toxic. I don't even. It's not very expertise, but so those are my concerns that have also been.
If I could have Chuck Pitson. Raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth in your testimony before the commission this evening?
I do.
Wonderful. If you could state your full name and address for record.
Chuck Pitson, 123 West Jeffrey Place. I think just hearing some of the dialogue tonight kind of just lets us know that this bike path is an accident waiting to happen. An avid cyclist, I've cycled 12 to 15 miles. And I know the most dangerous place to cycle is on a bike path. Because you have walkers, you have strollers, you have dogs on leashes. And also what's happened, since 2015, a lot of changes have taken place in the old beach world area and also in Graceland. The apartments and so forth that are there, population density has increased significantly. Consequently, this is a channel for a lot more activity coming into the neighborhood. And we do not have sidewalks, and there's a lot of people that walk. As was stated, there's a lot of line of sight issues when you're walking. So I think the more activity, the more safety issues there will be. In addition, we know right now that we're going through water line, sewer line, gas line placement. And if when we get new roads, we have to come to the commission, or a resident has to come to the commission to get a curb. Well, that's not part of the old historic area. So consequently, look at a 10 to 12 foot wide asphalt bikeway as being counter to the intent of the historic commission. So I'm all in favor of biking, but at the same time, I really think this was called, it was for safety. I think it's totally against safety. I think it's an accident. Thank you.
If I could have Mary Kerr approach the podium. You could raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth in your testimony before the commission this evening. If you could state your full name and address for record.
My name is Mary Kerr. I live at 90 Avenue in the neighborhood. And I just want to say that as a neighborhood, we invited the entire neighborhood to a meeting on April 21st to discuss the mobility path that we're talking about right now. And the city presented their information. Our neighborhood overwhelmingly approved the plan with one modification, and that was to make the path 8 feet instead of 10 feet. I'm also an avid cyclist, and I believe that paving this little path, which is only 200 feet long, would make it far safer for all the young families who have children with bikes who want to ride.
Thank you. Thank you. If I could have Joe, I believe it's Modal, approach the podium. Thank you. If you could raise your right hand, sir. Do you swear to tell the truth in your testimony before the commission this evening?
I do.
Wonderful. Sir, and state your full name and address for record.
My name is Joe Motel, I live at 167 West Cook Road, Columbus, Ohio. I am a former vice chairman of this Historic Resources Commission, and I am speaking this evening solely as the District 6 Clickville Area Commissioner due to this project being located within the boundaries of my district. And I am not speaking on behalf of the board representing the entire Clickville Area Commission. I've only been District 6 CAC representative since September of 2021. This project was initially brought to my attention of the old Mutual Association president by me in late November of last year. And that is when I became aware of the project as well. Some have argued that this 205-foot long path has been in the view of the public since around 2015, when in fact it is only spelled out as a nearly 1/8 of an inch marking on the 2017 Clickville Bikeway Network document and one of 40 line items in that same document that requires almost a magnifying glass to read in the handouts that I passed out. As I stated publicly in my past District 6 monthly reports, and while I'm not trying to throw anybody under the bus, the City of Columbus Public Service Department, Recreation and Parks Department, Clickville Area Commission, and Planning Development Committee, the Columbus Historic Preservation Office, all dropped the ball in terms of properly notifying the property owners on each side of this project, the Old Beachwood Association, the Delaware Residents Association, all have whom are most going to be impacted by this 205-foot shared path or bikeway connector. Assistant Preservation Officer Connie Torbeck even stated to me last winter she had not been aware of the project until recently. And it is because of this lack of proper communication that this project has been very contentious in the neighborhood. There's been one Zoom meeting, 2 in-person meetings held with Delaware and Old Beachwood residents since January with the Public Service Department's project engineer, Mr. Stewart, Alex Sauersmith, and or Louis Taba. They gave overviews of projects so residents could address their concerns and or support of the project. I've been in constant contact with both neighborhood groups since November, along with passing on information to my fellow CAC members and trying to get answers to questions about design changes from the Public Service Department and Recreation and Parks Department. To begin with, I was told by Mrs. Torbeck that tonight's agenda item would be tabled until the Area Commission gave its formal recommendation of the project. As you heard earlier, the CAC meets in 17 days on Thursday, June 2nd, and the project is on our agenda as a formal recommendation will be made at that time. And I respectfully request that the HRC either table this agenda item or consider this agenda item as a conceptual review in order to allow for the CAC to provide you with this recommendation. And by allowing a vote tonight by the HRC on design recommendations, I feel places the cart before the horse. If this body proposes a formal recommendation this evening, my 37 years of dealing with the City of Columbus, various governmental review boards such as BZA, Development Commission, and city staff recommendations tells me that your recommendation will override that of our area commission and or limit the CAC's ability to, as what Director Jennifer Gallagher has stated to me in an email, claiming we will work with the community to tailor this plan of the project. Public Service Department.
Sir, your 3 minutes is up though.
I'm almost. I think this is important. The Public Service Department in particular, Mr. Stewart appears to have been put on a gag order by his bosses as I requested and pleaded with him to give me information time and time again but with no response. I've asked him, what are the ADA requirements on the width of the types of services that may be used? I get no answer. He is well aware of the city's proposal to include 20 directional signs and that the neighbors are against that. How many signs need to be used? It's almost as if the city wants us to design this project without giving us information in terms of what can we do and what we can't do. The recommendations, if you do decide tonight to vote on this, I would feel that it should be no more than 7 foot wide. This would reduce the ballers perhaps from 1 or 2 on each side. Crushed granular powdered gravel that provides a permeable surface. I worked in the construction industry 40 years. I've made them myself that can be done, and they are ADA acceptable. I had to look up that information myself because the city would not provide it to me. A split rail fence perhaps that borders both sides of the bikeway, at least 2 to 3 feet from the edge of the new path. We've discussed also the possibility of landscape boulders located at the north entrance to help prevent the possibility of vehicular traffic from Rathbone through using the path. And again, the signage issue has been brought up numerous times. And there's other issues. Appreciate the extra time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you have any questions?
I'd like to call up Will Kohler, please. You could raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth in your testimony before the commission this evening.
Yes,
If you could state your full name and address for record.
it's Will Kaler, 55 West Wyzemmer Road. I'm a member of the Clintonville Area Commission Planning Development Committee. I was a member of the team that laid out the Clintonville Neighborhood Greenway Safe Streets Network in 2015. This is part of that project. Clintonville Neighborhood Greenways is a safe street network in Clintonville that allows people to safely travel throughout the neighborhood, walking and biking while avoiding busy arterials. You've already heard something about it. It was based on the neighborhood greenway system I saw on the trip to Portland in 2014. That was the inspiration for it. And we brought a lot of ideas back from Portland, tried to implement. And just to give you context of what this connector is for, the V12 connector is a key connection in the Safe Streets network. And I shared more information in the email about that. The part where the connector is going to be placed has been in the neighborhood since it was originally laid out in 1915. It's in the original map, the planning brochure for that neighborhood, which I provided. I think Eliza Pendexter has provided that in the statement yesterday via email. So this connection has been here for the lifespan of the neighborhood since it was created. And if you look closely at that map, and there's some closer, I think Lewis has some of these pictures, you can see that there's a sidewalk connecting Jeffrey and Rathbone, the winding sidewalk. In that original document in 1915, it has the same shape and markings as the other sidewalks in the neighborhood. And so this connection had always been intended to be a physical hard surface sidewalk, or we're widening a little bit to make it more of a mobility path with newer standards, but it's always intended to be a connection between these two neighborhoods. And if you have any questions, take any questions.
Thank you. If I could have, I believe it's Steve Plante, maybe?
Yeah.
Thank you. You could raise your right hand, sir. You swear to tell the truth in your testimony before the commission this evening.
I do.
Wonderful, thank you. If you could state your full name and address for record.
Stephen Trout, 252 West Jeffrey Place. My wife spoke earlier. Yes, I am an adjacent neighbor. There's a couple of concerns that we have about the width and the bituminous material. One of it is how it will carry water drainage. I've seen the plans. I understand the drainage requirements. I understand the swale. But when you consider the width that's being proposed at the moment, we're talking about
not just the width of the plant, the asphalt itself, but the inclusiveness of the swale and the adjacent right-of-way around this thing. It is dramatically going to change the character, we think, of the neighborhood. And it sort of flies in the face of what I read to be the charter of the HRC itself. So having to have here in front of me. So I'm probably stating the obvious to you that one of the paragraphs in your charter is the protection of the neighborhood from development which might harm its character and possible protection of property values and visual view. Well, being as adjacent as I am, being the width of the entire project, including the drainage, which we're a little fearful about anyway around her, I have to question the HRC's role in the protection of the character of the neighborhood. Yes, I have to say it, my own personal problem. There's properties adjacent to that path that want to be really effective. I read it as a charter of the HRC to help me protect that. I think that's my any questions for me?
Thank you.
Thank you.
So maybe you can help me understand the stretch that that's not on the street, right? The stretch that's going to be going through, that's going to be newly constructed. How approximately long is that? How many miles? Each month.
205 feet.
It is only that small section.
Can you pull up the rendering? Go up. No, up. Go up, right there. That's it, rendered into the, and if you go down one slide, under there you see it, the entirety of Old Beach Wall. Go up one slide again. So that's showing it right there. There's driveways to the east, to the west. I can address some of the concerns that were raised.
Yeah, that would be great. The width, the material.
So the material, this is it's supposed to be a shared use path. The city doesn't make those out of gravel, they make them out of asphalt. It's for ADA concerns, it's for accessibility concerns. As some of the individuals indicated, some people have mobility issues. Gravel paths wouldn't be appropriate for, say, for like a wheelchair. So that's why we're going with asphalt. Regarding the trees, if you go down, Hunter, slides, go down. That looks good right there. No. There we go. Yeah, and zoom out. So we are taking out 2 trees as part of this proposal. As part of our feedback from members of the community, the property, this is oriented sideways. The right is the north, the left is south. Property to the east, which is below here, indicated they had some concern about the proximity of this shared use path. They voiced that to Mr. Stewart when he was doing the site visit. So we're doing 109 plantings, you can see there. 2 trees are leaving. If you go down, well, you can see right there, we're planting 109 plantings. 5 of them are going to be eastern red cedars that are going to be at full growth, approximately 30 to 40 feet in height. We're going to have American hollies, 13 of them that will be between 15 and 25 feet in height. We're going to have 8 gray dogwoods. They're going to be between 10 and 15 feet in height. So that's an additional 26 trees. On top of that, we're putting in hemlock, purple chokeberry, and American cranberry bush. So we're taking out 2 trees, but we're going to be replacing them with 26. So hopefully that helps alleviate those concerns. Can you go down to the, can you pull up the survey results? Well, they indicated that residents don't want this. So the city did a lot of, we did do outreach. We've already talked about the history. This year, we received, in support of this proposal, we received 91 emails in support of this proposal citywide in Columbus. If you look at that map, in Clintonville, we had 70 emails of support, not for a connector, but for this connector, as is designed. We had 8 who do not support the connector, 7 were in Old Beach. Well, we do have one individual who did indicate their support, and they do live in Old Beach. Well, so there is support community-wide for this. Curves, the path does curve to a degree. See on the proposal, it does have a curve to it. It was given this design by Terry because that is the least impactful on the existing trees. It could be curvier, I suppose, but that would affect more of the trees. It would get closer to adjacent properties. So we don't want to do that. It was indicated that this was just a line item. In 2007, when the details of this proposal went back to the Clintonville Area Commission, I do have a map here which they were given, which shows the details of all of the pathways. You can clearly see here that they're calling out a shared use path here as well. This I can hand those out if you'd like. As for the outreach, I can give some details on the outreach. As we said, this proposal was brought to us by the community as part of the survey and as a URF project. This was brought to us by the community, approved by the Area Commission as a URF project in 2015. They saw the scope of improvements in 2017. 2018, phase 1 was built. 2019, we had a on-site meeting to discuss the project. Did discuss it with residents of one of the nearby properties. In 2021, there was further meetings with CRPD staff and the consultant. The shared use path alignment was staked for inspection. One of the property owners discussed that they were concerned about the proximity to their residents, and in response to that, we added additional plantings. These are way more plantings than the city usually does on any shared use path. But we had an on-site meeting in January of 2022, a virtual meeting in March of 2022 with Old Beach Walled residents. As I said, we received a lot of emails in support. We met with the Delawanda Neighborhood Association April of 2022, and here we are for the Historic Resources Commission. So ideally, in an ideal world, the planning division could go and reach out to all the residents, but we don't have the staff or the time to do that. We have a lot of URF projects, so we depend on the area commissions to get feedback and to disseminate this to the different residents. At every point in this project until recently, the District 6 Area Commission, who was not Joe until the previous one, never raised any concern to us. We never heard anything about this until just recently, any concerns with the project. As for the drainage, Terry could probably address that better than I can.
We were concerned about adding impervious surface to this area and the impact that the path could have in this area, particularly prohibiting drainage off of adjacent private properties into the ravine that's to the west here. So what we did was we added an improved swale to this area so that we could drain all the water that's accumulated in this area to Rathbone, where there is a catch basin. So there's actually an improved drainage situation here that they're experiencing because of this project. The path will itself drain into the ravine. It should drain continuously along to the west, such that it should pretty much infiltrate before it even gets to the ravine at this point. So the natural condition that the ground is in, it's going to have a high organic matter content, which allows it to absorb a lot of water.
And one thing I'll ask, when we're here, we feel that this is designed for safety, for connectivity, for all the users in the neighborhood. We feel it's designed appropriately, but as I said before, we're here for any suggestions or conditions you may have based off of neighborhood input.
We got a couple of questions. You said you're removing 2 trees. Do you know how many trees are remaining? That will not be site.
There's extensive trees here, which we don't have photos that show, there was a question as to why it's so far to the, apparently to the east. Well, that's so that we can save some very large trees there in the front on the south side of the property. That was the only opening. There's an opening to the east side of the park property. So that was the logical place for it to be. We did not do the, even though we moved it, even though we moved the path to the east to avoid those trees, we did not extend it all the way to the property line, all the way to the edge of the park space. We kept it close to the trees so that we did not have the minimal impact on the adjacent residential.
Okay, and currently, I'm looking at the plan, and it's currently planned for 12 feet wide, is that correct? Okay, because that's what it's showing here. What is the current width?
Designed it to our engineering standard of 10 feet nominal.
Okay, 10 feet.
And it goes down to 9 feet in section as well. So it's 10 feet.
Which seems pretty narrow, but okay. And the streets in the area are also asphalt, is that correct?
That's correct.
So it'll be matching the existing streets.
Streets are currently being, part of the project that's being repaved, but they will be asphalt.
Right, that's what I assumed, but I just wanted to make sure that they weren't concrete, and this was going to be a different material. Okay, I don't think I have any further questions.
So can I build on the width question? So one of the concerns is, instead of 10, can you make it 8? So I know you go 9. So one question is, why is it not at least 9 throughout? If you can make it 9, why not 8?
Well, 10 is safe. I think, I don't know if you've ever ridden on any of the trails in Columbus, the Olentangy, the Allen Creek. I've never ridden, I ride them often. I've never thought, oh, this trail is too wide. If only it was narrower, it'd be better. You're passing people and it's, right. 10 feet, the city standards are between 10 and 12 feet, which is also what the Clinton area plan calls for, Clinton area plan. It's 10 feet, but on that curve, to try and alleviate any impact on some of the trees, it does narrow down to 9 feet. But that's not an ideal condition right there. Ideally, it would be 10 feet, but we don't want to impact any more trees, so it goes down to 9 feet.
Yeah, I would agree with you that narrowing it, because there were safety issues raised by some of the residents this evening, and certainly making it narrower would make it more dangerous. Because especially when there's people walking on the same path as a bike. So the bike coming at 10 feet, that's only 5 feet per lane. It's pretty narrow.
Kind of my thoughts here is just that, we've heard a little bit from the residents tonight and just start to, again, I thank them all for coming out. Your voice and opinion always does matter to us, both those pro and against. I always want to thank you for coming out though. One of my thoughts goes back to the width of it, though I hear the concerns about safety. What we're really looking at, we're not looking at miles of trail, we're not looking at, we're looking at, what is it, 200 feet roughly. So my question is could they minimize that 200-foot stretch at a smaller width, knowing, that you might have to add a little yellow sign that says slow or caution or be watchful or something. To me, it seems like it's just a section that on a larger path, you may have to slow your bike, slow your watch, be careful and not hog the road a little bit for 200 feet. Doesn't seem unsurmountable though. I know in other communities, I think back to, although they're not ideal for accessibility, they take a lot of compaction, as if you had even studied non-asphalt surfaces and non-concrete surfaces, i.e. really fine crushed aggregates that end up being, a little bit more, at least flexible, I think, in keeping with even avoiding putting down a paving. I know we currently only have what looks to be a mud path here right now, so I understand that would not be safe. But I have walked on many park paths over my life that were, small, not exactly pea gravel, but just compacted surfaces. And I wondered what your ability to think about using that as a potential, material is here, because again, it's really only 200 feet until you hit the pavement of the street, and you're on the street.
Yeah, I mean, you could look at that. I think, I don't know if that's ideal, and I don't know if that helps accessibility the way we want it to. It's probably not ideal for bikes. It's probably not ideal for people who have walkers or crutches or whatever to that degree. I think ideally we would like it to be the harder material. It is supposed to be a bike connector, and a shared use path. And I don't know how, like I said, there's lots of asphalt in the neighborhood. I don't know how adding one more is so damaging, except for it's not for automobiles.
I think my last comment is, although it's probably going to be an unpopular opinion with potentially the adjacent neighbors, when I go to the landscape plan where you've added 91 or so plantings, to me, that stands out even more because there's just too many plantings. And although I know you want to screen it, I start to look at that and say that's actually creating an inconsistency in a historic district. We start to look at mature plantings, spacings of plantings, view corridors, kind of the top of this page, or I guess that'd be the west side of the path, if I'm looking at this correct, feels, things have spacing, and, you kind of walk along the path and there's some space around a plant, but there's a lot going on that east side that just feels real tight to me. And I just want to make sure that what we're not creating here is just something that actually sticks out even more because you're just trying to appease a neighbor. I mean, they do live in a historic district with views and corridors and plantings. And I'd argue that while you might be losing 2 trees there, if they're big mature trees, you can see right past them. Their canopies are generally higher off the ground. So I just want to make sure that there's a correct amount of planning. Lastly, I don't know how my commission members feel. I think I'd be okay with just leaving this as a conceptual vote this evening to get further feedback. I think from, if this plan changes with input at the Clintonville Area Commission and the design changes, then you'd be coming back to us all over again. I'd rather give conceptual comments this evening and not offer a formal vote this evening. But I would have to defer to my other.
What's your time schedule on this?
You mentioned, got us, the area commission will hear this in June, and so we'll be taking recommendations. We'll listen to the feedback that we get and react to all the feedback that we get from commissions after we get it. So we want to make sure we have all the input that we need to make a final decision on the design of the project. So we need more time.
So I guess when, sorry to just kind of build on what you were saying, with the planting right now, with the east, it does seem a little fence or wall-like, because there are low planting, right? So is there a possibility similar to what you were saying on the west, you drop some of the low planting and maybe add bigger trees, and that kind of just lightens it, and eventually when those trees grow, you will get the view sheds, which Chair was talking about. Yeah, and back to the width, it is only 200 feet. So if bringing it down to 8 feet, it's not, it seems like it's doable, right? It's not ideal, but it's not horrible either. So it might be a win-win situation if you think about it that way. And I'm thinking if a biker or pedestrian, if they're getting off the street and coming onto an environment which feels like it's forest-like, park-like, with a sign, there might be an intent to just maybe take it a little slower than going on the streets. Maybe it's like traffic calming, but for a bike, I guess. And then I would, again, we're not engineers, the material that Chairman's talking about. Again, he said that I know it's not ideal for AD access, so I defer to you on it, but I would love to see a little bit research, maybe. You guys probably done it, so. But it would be nice to understand, is there any, because with all the advances, I would assume that somebody's looked at pervious something that maybe overlooks that challenge. Again, it's only for 200 feet. I understand city standards. So can you make an exception just for the 200 feet to make it fit in that park-like environment? But I'm okay with the consent.
Just my, maybe my last comment. I don't want to, again, wayfinding signage has to be successful enough to get through the neighborhood to accomplish, again, we're not judging the piece north of this, we're not judging the piece south of this, we're judging the piece that only goes to the district. I think it's important that somebody easily navigates through the district. You did prepare kind of a placement sign plan. To me, at 24 inches square, that sounds big, but actually when you step back and you realize signs, stop signs, et cetera,
Yeah,
it's not that big. But I just want to make sure that we understand what kind of post is being used.
yes,
We think it got all the materiality. Again, our purview is really materials, and how it looks and how it impacts a historic neighborhood. So I just want to make sure we're seeing everything presented, identified.
yeah, I can show you. So there's an example of the sign next to something.
Is that like a painted metal post or what is that?
It's a standard painted metal post, and it's what's used in the neighborhood currently. It's what currently gets used in Old Beachwell. So, we went around and we looked at what was in the neighborhood. We have, it would be matching the speed limit signs in the neighborhood.
But I mean, that speed limit sign is just on a regular piece of unistrut, which to me doesn't feel like you do that, right? I can't tell what that is.
Same kind, just
Different colors.
your typical sign.
I mean, if there's thought about appropriateness, it may be changing your post stock to something other than a piece of unistrut for just this section of what is the district.
What would you?
I mean, I don't know that there's any precedent for steel unistrut or something that basic, but
Well, I guess it's a precedent because that's the signs that are currently in the neighborhood. So,
what's appropriate versus what's there, maybe. I mean, now's the time
Right.
to correct those things, right?
yeah, I mean, we could look at the metal post that the street sign is on. Say, okay, well, we have a round pipe there. We have a green sign on that. New signs have green on. And so maybe we're thinking of the street signs are directional signs, whereas the other ones are traffic signs. These are directional signs. So we could make the case to say that the directional signs should be consistent.
We can consider that. Our only concern was that it would draw more attention to the sign because it's a thicker post.
Is there any way, when we go back to, do you just have the sheet with the graphic that actually shows the sign? So again, I'm all about historic districts, you minimize the impact. Keep right on here. Oh, go out. Yeah. There you go. So, if you can zoom in on that, I'm just gonna put it here. Do you really need this whole center graphic piece to even get somebody through this neighborhood? Can it just be the word neighborhood bikeway in the arrow? Can you just simplify it? Just less is sometimes more.
Suppose we could. I think we were going through for consistency through the whole bike network.
I get it, but not everything in the bike network is a historic district.
And also in this neighborhood, the density of the signage is much greater than probably in other areas. I don't know that for sure, but your earlier comment about of the
Too many signs.
the number of signs needed for the area. The other question I had on the landscape drawing that we were looking at, that it was noted that there were so many, perhaps too many trees, are like the red cedars, are they shown at planting time being that diameter, or are they shown at some level of maturity? Because red cedars grow fast and wide. Do you know what's being shown in there? I assume the red cedars are part of that hedge-like structure.
They're not at the new plantings, they're probably in like an intermediate, as was shown there, that's more of an intermediate kind of.
So like 3 years from now, or yeah, I mean they grow really fast, and if they're too dense, then the bottoms die off and they look really ratty.
If you would feel comfortable, as a commission, I mean, I'd like for you to take our comments, digest them, and continue to get community feedback before, putting something forward for us to do a final vote on.
You go to the area commission.
Okay.
Sure.
I do for myself disagree with my fellow commissioner that I think the path itself should be a hard surface. Work with gravel, and I understand you can pack it, you can do all kinds of stuff, but you also end up with a lot of potholes over the time and difficulties with it. And if there's handicapped people using it, the asphalt is just, if well maintained, is I think a safer material.
I think that's a good point. I think that's why kind of just the research to say that this, this is the reason why. So I know, for example, with snow, are you going to be snow plowing on it? And I know that can scrap it really bad. It's just that sort of information so that we can be confident that that is the right choice.
One other thing I don't think we mentioned is maintenance. The rec and parks, this would be part of their maintenance crews schedule. They prune it, take care of it, and all the plantings are guaranteed for 1 year for replacement improvement first year. Okay. Any other questions or anything else we can?
So we'll consider this a conceptual review at this point, and we look forward to you coming back after you have additional community feedback.
Sure. Thank you very much for your input. Appreciate your time.
We don't have to do it.
Time to make comments.
Back here. No problem.
Connie, case number
17 Park Street, this is for conceptual application. They have withdrawn for this one.
Okay, case number 10.
754 Wilson Avenue, I think we have someone attending for that. Sorry for your wait. Sorry for your wait.
You could take a seat right there and raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth in your testimony before the commission this evening?
I do.
If you could state your full name and association with the property for record.
My name is Jeffrey Smith. I'm the homeowner of 754 Wilson.
Thank you very much. Connie.
Okay, so this is some additional work on an existing carriage house that has been recently stabilized. So based on a review of Sanborn maps, the house was not yet built in 1901, and the house and a two-story barn, carriage house were existing by 1921. The carriage house has recently undergone stabilization repairs and removal of faux brick veneer. The overhead doors facing the alley that are being replaced are not historic fabric. Two main door openings proposed for infill appear to be original. Existing original siding will be used to cover these two openings when the larger central doorway is created. Any required new wood sidings is to match existing. While some historic fabric, namely the two door openings, will be lost, the proposed new door opening faces onto the yard. The outbuilding will continue to be utilized, and the alteration will not impair the essential form and integrity of the structure. Recommend approval of the application as submitted. And additional materials were submitted that you requested after this meeting.
Thank you. And anything you'd like to add as the applicant? Let's just, I just want to look over the materials of the here for a second. And again, my primary concern, going to the back image, I do remember this case. Go up. Right there. It's just that the opening, we get a lot of requests to fill in doors and windows, and here is a request to really fill in what is clearly an original door with a transom even, and then being merged with another one to create a man door, double wide door. And then is that a concern for setting what ultimately becomes bad precedent?
Why do you want to take the door with the transom window out?
Well, that door was an entrance to a built-in outhouse. The outhouse present interior. So without having an outhouse, we see no need to have it. And it would be more useful to us if we had a wider door centered so that we could get interior lighting.
What is the use of the building?
It is a garage and a woodworking workshop.
Okay. Is there any consideration just, I'm trying to figure out, is there a compromise that's also reachable where you could, leave this door and transit window intact and wall over it on the inside if you need to? Or could you just consider maybe modifying, widening this door just to a bigger width within this, at least keeping this consistent, this part of the frame intact so that we have a record of history then a little bit, like then we're not eradicating. I know it starts to look a little strange, but it at least starts to track history a little better because, it's actually a fascinating thing. You said to me, hey, there was an outhouse here. It seems mundane, but it's part of this building and telling us its story here.
This is, there are other entrances, right? So these are extra, like addition.
Those are man doors. Well, the one on the left was the outhouse, and the one on the right was the man door to access the interior. So,
But then you have the garage and they all go to the same space.
yeah, they all go to the same space. Yeah, the alley side there are two.
So, I defer to you all the doors and architects, the doors and as architects. But so I do agree that the history is kind of interesting and it's like, oh wow, that's cool because that's what it is. Regarding the other door, to me, ultimately, I understand you want to preserve that, but then does it start looking all hacky if you now start expanding it? So I guess if it's done aesthetically right, and it's not like some gorgeous, art history building or anything, but still, how do you make it?
But even the mundane vernacular building is just as important.
Right, no,
palatial.
Right, exactly. So I'm saying keeping, but so I know you're trying to help the applicant, but can it be done so that it stays full and it doesn't start looking awkward, like one side is lopsided? I don't know.
If I could comment,
Yeah.
A little unusual to have that walnut door sitting there. The current outhouse door is terrible shape at the bottom.
And that I think we would allow, if it's DK, you can replace it, kind of.
Replacing.
Yeah.
Right, and in the past, we've been very reluctant to allow the closure of a window and or a door. Even on buildings where they needed to put in a kitchen or a bathroom or whatever, they've retained the window, they painted it black on the inside, and they've drywalled over it so the exterior maintains. Well, I'm thinking about that a little bit. I want to have a question about the windows here. I see the one is, it looks like it's a 6/6, and the other one's a 2/2. And on your drawing, I think you're showing just a single pane over a single pane. What is the intent on the windows there?
That is going to be future. We currently don't have plans to take care of the windows at this point. So we do want to work on the windows, but this stays with the door.
Okay, gotcha. Because it appears, at least from that photograph, that the 2/2 is probably the original.
Yes, the 2/2 is what we're doing.
Okay. On the
put in that.
Okay. On the white man door there, it looks a different size from the other door, which it certainly could have been. And I see a white piece of something above there. Has that door been lowered at some time? And is that a metal door that's currently there?
It is a metal door, and that's some metal flashing. I'm not certain if the previous owner.
Because the 42 inch is unusual for for a door, so I suspect, it looks like, is that foundation been replaced with CMU?
Yeah, the foundation and what it's improved and it's. To do the door, we would have to alter what they've already done.
Okay. Okay, what I'm sort of reading this as is that door is probably not original, and that door is probably was maybe the same size as the outhouse door, but
Maybe not even there.
or maybe not even there, or yeah,
Oh, we used to have a trellis that a previous owner built. Just,
so because that's not an original door, because it's a metal door that's obviously not there, I'm having less difficulty with you altering that door. Whatever was there is lost to history. And it almost seems like the door should go up as high as the windows, because you got sort of a line that goes across there. You have the windows, you have the top of the transom hitting that. So that seems to make sense. I'm tending to agree with Code Commissioner on there should be some remembrance of the narrower door. Probably don't have to put hinges even on it. Could fill that in with some vertical planking, some vertical pieces. That it's without a doorknob or anything, so that it's clear that no one's going to go over there and try and open it, but that it indicates that there was a door there that was infill. The transom window is above. It'll bring a little light into the shop. When you do the new door, if you wanted to widen that, I'd be okay with that, because again, it's not original. If you wanted to put a double transom window above that.
The key thing, though, the key takeaway, though, is you want to get the head height to be the same.
Yeah, yeah.
Right?
You want to get the head height, because
It is planned to be high. We do plan to use the door that we want to put in there. It used to be on the alley side. Before they put in garage doors, it was. So there was one preserved inside the garage, so we're going to use that as the.
Okay, that sounds good.
So now that you're saying this, so then would you suggest that this be in, because it can't just be open here. Would it be appropriate to go ahead and continue this new foundation?
Yeah, that would be fine. You wouldn't have a problem with that. Run the foundation, then run the board in front of it. It doesn't have to go all the way to the ground, because you don't want to waste your problem. And make it even stop at the foundation, but just some indication. And we've done that before on other structures where they've done a wood infill at times that looks like a shutter that's been closed on a few structures. And that way we're not setting a precedent of saying, yeah, you just take
So that door stays, the other door can be then modified, raised in height and width.
I think we're being consistent. We're not setting any precedents.
So then maybe the applicant could present revised drawings to Connie based on this conversation for a staff approval then?
Sure.
That's the.
So what was the proposal for the width of the door when it was going to be sent?
How wide is the new door going to be?
I think it's 5 feet 8 inches.
Okay,
It's going to be split. Those are the garage doors. It's going to be doubled.
The doors from the other side, the old existing. I'm okay with that, because it was, that metal door, it just happened to be that wide because that was the door they probably bought somewhere cheap.
My question is just, would it fit?
Yeah,
Oh.
go back to that.
Yeah, do you have enough room there?
I mean, it's really based on the applicant saying they can do it. Instead of being 42 inches wide, you could.
Yeah, maybe not quite.
Yeah. What I
42.
I think I don't. It's good to keep this, right?
consistency for this with corner, this with, and this. Just. How wide that door can get.
I mean, you could,
Just determining where you want the width to be and where you want, I think we need to have a drawing that just shows us where it's gonna go. But I think we're all in agreement on height. Leaving that door and how to solve the left door.
We could look at it at the business meeting and then decide to turn it over to staff approval. That seemed,
I can feel quite comfortable with that.
okay, if you can get the drawings back by for the business meeting.
what's the deadline, but then a week beyond, so next Thursday?
It's Thursday. And then that way we'll look at it at the business meeting, and if we feel comfortable at that time, we can turn it over to staff approval, and then that'll save you 2 weeks.
Do you have any further comments on the garage doors?
I'm okay with the garage doors. I suspect that, I mean, just look at that vertical.
This is what had, it had brick veneer on it.
Yeah. It's hard to know what was original. I mean, what was first built. And so you're.
Technically, those ones that are in there right now are probably years, essentially.
Could be.
This is one of those mixed media. Yeah. It's got the window strip right there in the center, but it's wood. Yeah. What are the doors proposed?
Yeah, you can see that there was an old door there.
Yeah. Yep, right there.
Yeah.
So go down to the ones that you proposed. I think they're proposed to be like carriage doors, correct? Yeah, I have no problem with that because I think that's fine.
Okay with it.
In fact, maybe we can do a motion to pass this piece of it.
Sure.
Be great because then we can order our garage.
Okay.
If we can have a motion to break this into an A and a B real quick here.
Okay,
Number 10.
2205-017.
okay, yes, 2205-017, 754 Wilson Road, Part A. I move that we approve the garage doors and alterations on which facade is it? East facade.
There's a motion.
Second.
Motion is second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion passes. And then do we need to have a continuation for B?
Yes.
I move to do a continuation on Part B of 2205-017 -754 Wilson Avenue regarding the west facade. That was the
West rear facade.
west rear facade.
And that'll be just continued.
It would to be continued, yes.
Second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion passes. And hopefully we'll just get this one wrapped up very quick.
Okay, thank you.
Connie, the next case.
Number 11, 16 County Street for landscaping. This application was moved to staff approval at the May 5th HRC business meeting. The COA has been issued, no action required.
Case number 12.
705 Oakwood Avenue. A rear platform deck. This application was moved to staff approval at May 5th HRC business meeting pending submittal of additional drawings for the pergola. Prior drawings have been submitted, SCOA has been issued, no action required.
Great. Moving down to number 13, 781 Kimball Place.
I think we have someone attending for this. Yeah.
You could raise your right hand, sir. You swear to tell the truth in your testimony before the commission this evening.
Yes,
If you could state your full name and association with the property for record.
Jemiah Holman, owner.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, this is to retain the existing 10-foot wide by 10-foot long by 4-foot high frame shed and 16-foot by 12-foot chain link dog enclosure as installed prior to review and approval. In regard to the shed, the property includes a brick house with a hipped roof and a framed garage with a gable roof. Columbus Register guidelines for outbuildings state that new outbuildings should be compatible with similar historic structures in the surrounding area. And roofs, doors, windows, and eaves should match the main structure or the historic garages and outbuildings around it. The amber roof and the door and siding details of the existing barn shed are typical of a rural barn structure and are not compatible with the property or district. In regard to chain link enclosure, the Columbus Register guidelines state that chain link fences should not be installed. An existing chain link fence that was installed prior to Old Oaks being designated an historic district may remain in place, but upon removal, chain link could not be reinstalled. A chain link fence is not compatible with the character of the property or district. Recommend removal of the chain link fence upon installation of a 6-foot wide privacy fence, 6-foot high wood privacy fence that has been staff approved. Recommend modifying the existing shed to be compatible with the details of the existing house or change out the shed for an approved shed. We'll discuss a little bit that he may be considering modifying the shed if that's possible.
Wonderful. What would you like to add?
First off, new to the neighborhood, so had no idea. Walking the dog, walking through the neighborhood, the different characteristics.
Yeah, just gotta make sure you get speaking to the mic.
Okay. I'd have never known that couldn't put a shed or a fence out there. Never informed. It wasn't like I just moved out there and just started putting stuff up. I was moving in, getting stuff and enclosure to keep my dog safe. Like Connie said, I have got approval and there has been a privacy fence put in place. So I guess my question is, what can I do for one to revise my shed so I can keep it? It wasn't like I bought the shed and didn't have it delivered. I bought that shed from a previous home that I lived in. So, and like I said, nobody said, hey, you moving into Old Oaks area, you need to get permission. I was aware that I moved in as of late February, March, and even the neighbors, nobody, they have no idea about none of this stuff. So I wasn't informed. And if, walking through the neighborhood, you see sheds, fences of all different color, chain link fences. So I would never know due to the different characteristics that this was not allowed. So I guess I need to know what I can do to keep my shed.
So that
Kind of revision or paint, whatever I need to do.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying about not knowing, and you're certainly not the first. I wish the realtors would tell people that they're moving into the historical district, but unfortunately, we can't control that.
Neither can I.
Right. No, I understand that. But our charge is to look at the regulations and interpret those.
So I was willing to put a pitch roof on it.
I think that, well, there's two separate things we want to tackle, the fence issue versus the shed issue. So you've done so there's now a privacy fence around the perimeter of the property.
That's correct.
But the neighbors already have existing fences, right? Correct?
Yes.
And then so his were approved to put it across the back. there.
Across the back
Across.
and in the front.
Yeah.
So now it's all enclosure.
Okay, so the chain link has been taken down then?
No.
Do you need it then? If you have.
Yes, I do. I do. I have it's a 130-pound dog that I like to keep enclosed and safe.
And the challenge for us is that the text for the code, so it's not personal, it's not anything else, it's just that the text in the code is very explicit in the district. We can only make rulings by what is out there in code. It is very explicit to cover chain link and say chain link is not allowed. And when older existing chain link fences that are inappropriate that are there are no longer, they've reached the end of their useful life, they're removed. In this case scenario, we can't freely decide to change a code. We don't have control over the code. So I don't know that we can do anything about the chain link fence. And I don't even know, it's,
Our hands are
we just-
tied up.
right, we don't have the ability to actually change a signal.
So you really cannot even see the fence. This is a neighbor complaint, I guess, per se, that's why I'm even here.
We just have a case come before us. We don't get the
Right,
back.
so like I said, there's plenty of brand new chicken coops, you name it, that's brand new for chain link fence around that neighborhood. So I just want to know, what is it that I'm doing wrong or being singled out, that everybody else can have chicken coops? As you can see the brand new black chain link fence in the picture behind my home. So what I'm saying is, in my defense, you say take it down, but yet there's plenty of newer chain link fences around the neighborhood.
They are there, if they are, and they've been put up past few years, that they're a code violation and should be reported. That's what we can react to is complaints that they're submitted.
Yeah, but the thing is, I was singled out from anonymous complaint. So, I'm not petty enough to complain with anybody because I don't care. So that wouldn't have been seen if it wasn't a complaint. You really can't see it now with the privacy fence. So.
What is the street beyond this?
What do you mean, on the other side?
On the other side.
I think that's Bradford, going that way. Bedford, I'm sorry, excuse me.
Is that, so the one thing to be very cautious about is certain streets are not in the historic district.
It is, because it's part of they got the project, it is. And all up and down the alley, there's all kind of stuff, you know what I'm saying? Which I don't bother me. I'm here because somebody had a little hair up, a little attitude, me moving in and filed this complaint.
I mean, it is unfortunate. I don't know what.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I know.
I definitely, I didn't move into the neighborhood like, oh, I want to just do what I want to do. I moved in with trying to do the right thing.
Connie, for the purposes of needing a companion animal in a home ownership scenario, would it ever be appropriate for a limited test case scenario if we could document that the fence is not viewable beyond the new fence that's been installed 100%?
And it's not, and even before I had the privacy fence, even before the privacy fence was put up, when they first contacted me about my shed, the fence wasn't mentioned. And even the code officer said she didn't see no kennel. She had to, so, and then I guess since y'all didn't move fast enough, he made sure he followed through with another report and then he put the kennel on it. So I'm being singled out is what I'm trying to say. So then that's the kennel wasn't even on the first notice. It was on the second, because you can't see it. You can't see it from the side or.
I'm trying to have a discussion about working with you.
Okay.
So, I mean, that would be up to the commission making those specifications, that it's, I'm assuming that you're wanting to live there you're not a renter, you purchased the house and you want to stay there. So, with the commission to make, notes as to why it was approved at this particular site, that it has to be not visible. I guess maybe we have to have photos.
I would want to make sure that there's photos on file,
Right.
even if we were to entertain this as an idea, that the fence is 100% not viewable because of another fence that's been put on the property.
In that some type of a commitment, which I'm not sure how to do this, that if there's no longer a dog, that the fence gets removed, but how do you enforce that removal later? I mean,
Or is it once that fence has hit its useful life, it can no longer be replaced, and that's part of the motion?
Yeah, but that fence has a 60-year life.
Yeah, and I can guarantee you I will always have a dog.
How high is this fence?
If I'm not mistaken, it's 6 foot.
And the other one is 6 foot, so I'm wondering if it actually is not visible.
It's not visible.
Just for me to sort of understand the property there, is that your pickup truck there?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so the privacy fence goes on both sides of that garage then?
Yeah, so these are before the, you can see like the piece of the privacy fence, if you look through there, and I'll go over a little bit, Ms. Connie, whoever's clicking that, sorry. Go over to it'll be to my left.
Okay, so
All right.
do you still park there? I mean, is there a gate in the privacy fence that you open, close?
Yes, it is.
There's no parking surface there?
It's probably another,
I think that's, would not be it.
yeah, that's actually another issue. You know, the parking pad there to park on.
But like I said, I just moved out there. I ain't had time to do much. So that's something else I'm in the works of getting approval for.
Is there a fence on what is the right of the page, right? Or is that a sidewalk?
Right there's a sidewalk.
So is there a fence?
There's a fence over there. It's a wooden fence over there. The neighbor.
So you have do you have a privacy fence now?
I did. I put it in between the garages.
Right. Is it out along the sidewalk? So if somebody's walking on the sidewalk, are they?
No.
This was the neighbor's existing, and he should.
Okay,
Also,
okay, so
when we
there's,
get-
the neighbor does have a privacy fence along their side.
The only other question I'll say is that if it goes in as a test case, the idea of a test case isn't it that there was no other option? Is there another option? I don't have to comment on that, but isn't there another option to tether a dog? I don't know, so.
Yeah, part of it, with the idea of a test case is that,
That means it could be allowed for other people.
right, it's a one-time test. And then we see how it works out. And if it was successful, then it may end up being a code change. Like, for example, when we were making the list of approved windows, those were all approved as test cases to begin with, and then they were evaluated after they were installed. And eventually a list got made that then got into the regulations to say you can use anything off that list. But in the beginning, they were all, each of those were test cases.
So wasn't the logic, the idea there, like I'm trying to understand that certain old kind of windows weren't available, it was difficult to get them, so you made a test case to allow for people to use something in the future which is more readily available. I guess what would the logic be here against a test case?
Right. And the other side of that coin is that some of the windows that we approved as a test case never made the list. We never allowed them again because they were installed. They were not as we believed them to be. And so a test case is literally that. You're testing it to see whether or not it's acceptable. It's not really supposed to be used as an exception. It's supposed to be used as.
That's what I'm asking. So in this case, it's here. Let's say it's a test case, it's already here. Now what?
Right. So what we'll be testing here is in future cases. Right.
If this is considered maybe not that successful, that, because our guidelines don't address dog enclosures.
Right.
That in the future, one, this height and width would not be. But to make some compensation for people who do have a dog to be. I don't know, that's.
So I guess that could be that we don't have currently any guidelines for animal enclosures, domestic.
So that's where I'm kind of going with this, is just because is the exception here because of needing the animal enclosure. And so, and also clarify for me, to the left of the truck right now, is there a fence? There's now a privacy fence that still is.
Yes. Everything is completely closed in now.
Is there, I guess, can the fence be any lower? Is like, what's the 6 foot? Again, for us, for.
I think 6 foot is permissible.
It's definitely for the size of the animal.
No, but privacy fence is 6 feet.
Yeah.
Right, also.
Yes.
And so, right. So if the privacy fence is 6 feet, that's 6 feet. You can't see that if you're 2 feet back from the fence.
I'm only looking at from this as an exception based on the companionship of the animal to the owner. The Foundation, that would be unusual based on that.
Did the commission, if you feel that's not over, but I'm wondering, since we don't have current photos, we don't know what the fence looks like, would it be a good idea to continue this to next month?
We also don't have a site plan.
Yeah.
I would like to have some type of a site plan to see where the privacy fence is actually set and related, and how big this thing is. I mean, it looks pretty big in relationship to the backyard, but I don't know how big the backyard is, so it's a little.
Because the other issue is going to be too, that, that when you want to put a parking surface in there, that would need to be reviewed by the commission also, so kind of need to determine what that parking surface needs to be and so forth, because you can't park on just ground.
I understand that, and that's why we'll bring it to whoever's attention when we're ready to do it.
So what, my point is just that maybe it'd be a good idea to continue it so you can look into those things further. And then bring that back if you think you might be ready to do that. I don't know what your timeline is for the parking.
What you mean?
When you put in a parking surface.
Right.
Yeah. What is your timeline for that? Is that something you're thinking about now, or is that?
That's in the near future.
Okay.
Okay, because I think the point she's making is that you are not actually supposed to be parking on your grass either.
I understand that, but I thought I was here for a fence in the shed. I understand that.
Right.
I won't park back there. I understand this.
Right.
It's understood.
Right, just so that you gotta get the whole picture.
And again, when I took those pictures, I was still continually moving stuff into the home. So I'm
Right.
just fortunately the truck was there.
So I think what I'm hearing is that we can, so we won't make a decision today, but only because we need to see the pictures of your new fence that you built so that we can see, so that if you can take a record of taking pictures from outside with your fence showing that this is clearly not visible, then we know it's not visible and then we can have it for record. And if you had a drawing, and you can go on Google or of your property, right, and just show us that and just mark out where your this fence is.
I've submitted that to Connie. She has those. She has those.
Is that with the,
markings.
but is that with the new fence?
No, I understand you need those pictures, but she has the markings, so I had to send that to her in order to get approved.
It is a
So
private
she has
fence
that.
on it.
Not photo.
That's what I'm saying. So that same photo now with the privacy fence drawn in it, like just lines, say here's the privacy fence, the new ones that you have, just so it's all tied up, we have.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Connie has that. She don't have the pictures, but she has the map that you're saying I can get with the drawings on it.
With the privacy fence?
Yes.
Oh, it is with the new privacy fence on it?
It's just a draw lock, yeah,
Okay. So that-
before he built it. I haven't seen the fence yet. My point was too, if you're ready, if we continue and you're ready to come back, if you're ready to discuss the parking pad, then we could put that in there too, and you could get it taken care of instead of having to come back.
That's fine.
Yeah,
Okay, well, you can put it on there.
so we'll talk about that. You can submit your site plan, and type of material and stuff. We're trying to go towards more pervious materials rather than asphalt or concrete, so just kind of keep that in mind too, what you might use that would be a pervious material. That's for runoff and so forth.
So we have one more thing.
And then the shed, yeah.
You know, going back to the shed, the issue that, as we've already discussed before, is the whole roof form. There's no precedent for that kind of agricultural barn roof line. And that's one of the challenges combined with the vertical T111.
Yeah, and when we look at that, the modifications, may be up to you, of course, but modifications might be more than is worthwhile doing. Because I don't know, would it have to be covered in siding and roof line changed?
What would have to be covered in siding?
Well, currently it's T111s, the siding goes vertically around, and typically in the historic neighborhood, it's like the white siding on the side of your house would be the precedent, where you see that second story up there. So one option would be to cover it with that type of siding, but then you would also have to change the roof, and now if you tear off that roof, you also have to extend the side walls up. It's almost turning into more of a bigger project than maybe worthwhile doing.
we can't tell the applicant what they do.
Right, what they do, or don't, right, exactly, but just thinking, change that may be pretty difficult. Brought up the siding, that's certainly one issue, and the roof is probably the other issue.
What
But
about
even
the
with those
structure
two
itself?
things.
What's the structure itself? Is that,
What, we get people that do want to propose sheds or new garages. But when you look at the front of it, it's got basically, hinged barn door like, this is a barn roof line, not a appropriate roof line for the neighborhood.
And then there's also the issue of being, we have a lot of sheds before.
Yeah.
So, but usually we look at the placement of those also on a site plan as to where it's placed. Usually they're placed towards the back of the lot. And there, we look at how they're arranged in configuration with the garage and the other buildings. What would you think would be the minimum? We mentioned siding, mentioned the front
I mean,
doors. and the roof.
the biggest thing to me is that the doors don't look anything like what we have in the district. The siding is inconsistent, the roof line is inconsistent. So we can't design the modification
Right.
for you as the applicant.
But you could come back with a proposal.
those were,
I mean, if you have any suggestions about what you
I
might
don't,
propose.
like I said, I told you why I was here. I don't have any suggestions. I just, if the pitch roof ain't, the revision I can do, I'm going into all that, I don't really know what else to do.
But you think you think that you could do that? You think you could make it a gable roof instead of a gambrel?
Yeah, but that's obvious. That's not enough for what they're.
Yeah, that's the thing is if you can,
But you're saying-
this, this is what's incorrect. This is a barn style roof to have this. If there's a way that you can come up with modifying the entire roof and putting a different siding around it or something, different skin around it to make it look, fit the historic architecture, taking cues from your own home.
With the slope of the
We
roof,
would welcome that, yeah.
I mean, if he continued the slope of the roof at the very top, that would seem like that slope is not, that's like a 1950s slope. Compared to the slopes that are on the house and on the garage. So do we need to be concerned about what the ultimate slope of the roof is going to be?
but we don't know what's in.
Right, I can't tell it, all I can say is, if a design needs to be proven, it's the applicant's job to provide a design. We can't sit here and design something for
True.
anybody.
The slope needs to be taken into consideration though, be consistent with the neighborhood.
Do we split this in two parts? I guess, right, that's how we would do it.
Well, we're currently, there's nothing, we would continue this,
We're going to continue it.
the whole case. There's nothing to decide on at this point. I think there's follow-up materials based on the discussion here.
So I have to come back down here?
We'd have to work on any submit materials, yes. I mean, we don't have a complete package to make any type of decision.
But I guess the only reason I said two, so if the applicant, and we can ask the applicant, if this is gonna stay as is, the barn.
Right.
Can we decide on that and say that is
Well,
not approved?
It can't stay as is.
Right, so that's what I'm saying, so can we decide on that, so that it's clear, so that there's no.
We're continuing them both. So if, for example, our next meeting, he submitted a design for the shed that's perfect, we can split that off then and or the other one.
Likewise, we can never prohibit if the applicant would like a vote, we can take a vote on both, we can take a vote on one,
Yeah.
At this point, I can submit the fence or whatever. I can figure out something to do with the shed. But, I need my kin, period.
Okay, why don't we continue?
And by the way, the other thing is if you need more time to submit stuff, just the key thing is to stay in touch with Connie. You know, we can push back a month, 2 months, whatever, as long as the conversation's going on.
No, I'm gonna get this over as soon as possible. So if you need pictures of the fence, I'll submit pictures of the fence. I can send those this evening.
And then would you do, sort of drawings or something
For what?
for the modification of the?
I mean, you talk about, you looking into major money. I mean, I didn't just move into and purchase a brand new home. I mean, so, I mean, I could look into removing the shed. This is all of, I'm going through this all over a neighbor's complaint because he can't put windows in his house.
Okay, HR 22 05 021 781 Kimball Place. I move to continue.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
So when the pictures come in, I have to still come back up here once the pictures are submitted for the fence.
Yeah, I'll send you all that information after,
And
when the next meeting is and so forth.
and some type of a site plan showing the size of the kennel.
Second,
She,
Yeah,
Second.
she has that,
With the kennel,
yes.
So there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion passes. Case continued.
Thank you.
Funny case number 355, East Northwood, number 14. It looks like case number 15 as well. Both staff approved. Anything that we need to report on?
No, just that, for the first one, I needed a choice of the roofing shingle and exterior paint colors. I've received those, issued that COA.
Number 16 looks like it's been withdrawn.
Oh, yeah, well, in 15, I'll just say too, they revised the drawing, submitted that to change the single garage door to opening to 2. And so that was. Number 16, 89 Riverview Park Drive, withdrawn, no action required. 1618 to 1620 South Ohio, if we have something present for that. Request for action, exterior alterations.
You could raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth? Do you swear to tell the truth in your testimony before the commission this evening?
Yes, I do.
Wonderful. If you could state your full name and association with the property for record.
My name is Marvin Clayton, and I am one of the owners of property since 18620.
Thank you.
Okay. So this brick duplex has been vacant and boarded at least since 2016. New downsized vinyl windows, inappropriate doors and roofing were installed in 2021 by a previous owner prior to review and approval. In 2004, another previous owner installed new vinyl windows and brown asphalt roofing shingles and removed stop gutters prior to approval and received a denial from the commission to retain those materials. In 2006, another owner received the same denial. However, none of those violations were ever corrected. Based on the history of inappropriate work completed by previous owners and the appropriate proposed work of the current owner, recommend approval, noting that any future change in roofing materials must be from the approved roofing shingles list. And the reason I just say that is that when someone purchased 5 properties and went out and they did all of these changes to all of these 5 properties, then began trying to sell them off, and some of them that unfortunately did get sold off before the new owners could understand that there were all of these changes that needed to be made. Not all of them. So some of those are still in possession. We think that original owner is going to need to be the one to make the modifications again. So we went out there with that owner, looked at all 5 properties and went over it to be done. And then these people bought the new owner property. We went out. And again, I did with the code officer. So, but an actual code violation was not issued for them for this. It was to the previous owners. So we did not discuss the new roof, which is black asphalt shingles. And that's why I'm saying, you know, because of the long history of this, at least three other previous owners have done a lot of inappropriate things. And, you know, it's kind of says like I'm saying, giving them a pass on this, the roof. But in this particular case, just because of the history of this particular property and the good work that they are doing, including installing a new front porch that's been vacant, that's been missing for many, many years. You know, I think it would be okay to say, you know, keep that roof, do all these other improvements, and just make sure that in the future, the action if the commission feels it would be better, you know, if they could say, yes, we want to go ahead and spend that money and do that, but it's a large project, and I understand the hesitancy to want to do that.
Okay, and it looks like it's a dimensional shingle too. So what do you have to do that as a test case on the shingles?
I don't think it would be a test case. I think it would be exception, an unusual circumstance or something like that. I mean, but that's up to the commission.
It's a test case.
But again, there's not an open code violation on it for the current.
Okay. But if there's not a current, then do we even have to rule on?
Really, I mean, it should have been ruled on for the what was sold it to them. But they sold it before it got into court.
Yeah, I know that, and that's a real problem because people aren't informed. There are issues that get discovered after a sale, and previous owners don't seem to be responsible. So, well, if there's not an open code violation on it, and signals are there, it would seem like you don't really have to do anything, and then that way we're not setting any precedents as
I agree.
trying to make an exception that we can't really justify. Okay, so the rest of it is the rest of it is you're recommending, right?
I was thinking of something. Window, I want to double check this. The window. That window quote. It's just drawings. I wanted to double check that quote on the front. Okay, there. Yeah, I just wanted to double check. Yeah. I was like, oh, are they using the cottage style windows? Yes, they are. So that's I'm fine with that, the windows.
It's like the doors, the transoms, and
Yes, they're using wood doors.
My only kind of comment is that in follow-up with you, sheet A3 should show all of the downspouts tying together, how they're actually being run on the building. It looks like downspouts are shown on the side of the house, but there's no downspouts being shown for the front porch. Because I don't believe there is. So I'm missing something. I assume it's not going to have its own separate downspout, but it's going to tie back to the downspouts that are on the sides.
There's also another thing, if you go to the sheet that has the word on it. The word wrong.
But that could be a follow-up prior to.
Yeah, and just, they've updated this, on this, it shows that still with the craftsman style doors, I think. But they're doing 4 pound, they're all wood, right?
that is good.
And do we have a cut sheet on it?
It's a picture of one that they've already built for another house, because they're custom made.
If you could get that information from the applicant.
I have, it's in here.
Okay. Mine is not loading.
We currently live at 596 and 598 South Ohio. And this house will be a close replica to the one that we live in that was renovated in 2018, 2019, 2020, and approved by the commission, obviously.
Great.
door.
Are you ready for a motion?
Yeah, I just want to make sure we got the door in there.
I didn't, but I do.
So how about we just condition that you have that
I
information?
have it, and I have the light fixture also.
And you have the light fixture also. And staff has reviewed the light fixtures are fine?
Yeah.
It's just gonna say, I don't know if my picture of the door helps, it's the one that I
Oh,
sent
yeah.
you.
Yeah, so it's basically a. it's a
You'd like to see it as a picture that I sent to her.
Just curious.
4-pound door with.
The current door is at 596 and 598.
Oh, nice.
It's custom made.
Yes.
We've got to give your drawing to everybody else.
Well, as Honey knows, when we started the project, we said we would do it right. So that's our intent.
Appreciate that.
I think we're ready for first.
HR dash HR dash 22 dash 05 dash 024 and 618 to 620 South Ohio Avenue. I move for approval.
Second, condition that the applicant will, or at least the staff will have the right door pictures as well as lighting and stuff.
So just clear for record that Ani will verify she's reviewed and approved lighting.
Yes.
And the front door installation, and she receives a revised drawing reflecting gutters.
Okay.
And
Downspout specific.
I accept all those in the motion.
Wonderful. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Looking forward to seeing a porch on it.
Yeah.
Case number 18, 481 East Town Street. Looks like that was moved to staff.
This is with the staff approval. This is an area by downtown and HRC. You requested a paint color for the wooden post. It's gonna be gray. They submitted that. It's been achieved.
Great. Okay, case number 19, 167 Rustic Place. Raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth in your testimony before the commission this evening?
I do.
Wonderful. If you could state your full name and association with the property for record.
My name is James Melly, M-E-L-L-E. I'm at 167 Rustic Place. I'm in Beach Ball, but I'm here on behalf of my own house, not the path. I have a different view on the path. But we're not here to talk about that.
Okay. This is to rebuild a chimney, demolish and hollow away the existing buff color. Build a new chimney, utilizing the existing foot tiles if possible. Built with same dimensions, the brick to be Glen Lawrenceville, which is a gray color. The stucco and buff stone house was built circa 1938. The existing buff color brick chimney appears to be original to the house. The color of most early stucco was supplied by the aggregate included in the mix, usually the sand. It's later evolved into the use of paint colors derived from nature or generally earth tone. Reservation brief 22. Our standards for alteration state do not support changing historic fabric for a different material, texture, or color, and state the new material shall match the material being replaced in composition, design, color, texture, and other visual qualities. Based on submitted photos and written chimney assessment, recommend approval of the application. Modification of the brick match the existing color and texture.
What else would you like to add?
I'd like to say that this is a case of a yellow chimney and a gray house. That's what we're here to talk about. I would like to give you a little background on why I've objected to the recommendation, only to the one part of the recommendation, which is the color of the chimney. First of all, we bought this house in 1977. There was no historic district. It did have the yellow chimney on it, and it's a Tudor house. Matter of fact, I brought you a picture of my house, which is still displayed in my house. This was painted in either 77 or 78. We've lived there for 45 years. In 1983, there was no historic district. We painted the house My wife calls it a mauve, I called it a gray. So again, no historic district. In 1985, the historic district petition was circulated. I and my wife were part of the original signers of that petition. We supported it wholeheartedly. In 2008, there was a lawsuit brought which challenged the historic district, and it was ruled that part of the historic district was invalid and it didn't cover all the properties. I don't know of my own knowledge, but I was told that our street wasn't covered by the original district. I don't know that for a fact. That's just what I was told. I only bring that up because in 2010, another petition was circulated. My wife and I signed those petitions. Again, we agreed wholeheartedly with the historic district approach. Then in early 2000, the house was painted again, essentially as the same colors in 1983. The historic district was approved for the next time in 2010. So you can see where I'm going with this, that the house changed, the circumstances changed. To move on, in 2017, we asked this commission for approval to change, or not to change, but to paint the house again. And this time, my wife agreed with me that it was gray and that the trim was a little darker gray. And we received approval on that, and we went ahead and painted the house. In 2020, we applied again here to have approval to replace the pavers in the front of the house and the porch entrance of the house. And again, we used gray brick pavers. I know that we submitted a picture of our house, but what our house looks like is this. As you can see, it's gray with stone, just typical stone that's used in the beach walled area. Here's a copy of the pavers that were used. It's gray. There's the property, the pavers that were used, and they were gray. What I'm getting at is that the yellow chimney doesn't go with a gray house. And with due respect to the staff who works hard, and I have the greatest respect for, I disagree with their recommendation and their conclusion. They approved what we asked for, and by the way, there is a slight leak from the chimney with the water running down, and it's affecting the cinder block in the basement. So we need to get the chimney replaced and fixed. The staff, I think, they cited subsections 2, 5, and 6, I believe, in their basis for supporting the recommendation not to change the color. And I submit to you that they didn't check the exact subsection that applies here, which is section 4. Section 4 is the one that says, no, you know it, but this is all new to me, but Section 4 provides that the changes which have taken place over the course of time are evidence of the property's history and environment. These changes may have acquired significance in their own right, and if so, this significance shall be respected. There is no mention of subsection 4 in their report. There's no analysis of subsection 4. And to me, that's the section that applies here, because if you look at the history of our property, we've owned it for 45 years. I can testify from memory all of these changes. That the property changed from its original typical Tudor color into the gray color over time, mauve, and then the gray. So we end up with a gray house. It's got a yellow chimney on it. It's been on the chimney since, the chimney has been yellow since we've owned it. We haven't touched it. We have to touch it now because of the leak. So I say to you that they seem to think that there is a distinctive stylistic feature or a distinguishing characteristic. That's the language that's used in subsection 2 and subsection 5. But what is, I say to you, what is distinctive stylistic feature about a color? In my opinion, it's nothing. I think it's arbitrary to say that it is. And what is distinctive about the color yellow as a distinguishing characteristic of our house? Again, I say to you that it's not a distinctive matter at all. We're not quarreling about anything else that the staff wants us to do. We're fully in agreement that we'll do whatever they want. We respect the commission, I might add, and the staff. But the yellow, we would like to change because it doesn't fit with the house. And I think that not only does the yellow not go with the current gray color scheme, to force that color upon a gray property will detract from its overall appearance, will detract from the property. A yellow chimney is not a distinctive stylistic feature. It is not a distinguishing characteristic. It's an abnormality as the house exists now, and it diminishes the appearance of the property. And that's why we're asking to change. This is what they want us to put on, continuing of our house. This is what we want to put on. I might add that our contractor has experience in this. He's been doing it for 32 years. He's, if you read his explanation, he's been hired by I think it's a Columbus Landmarks decision to teach their course. He's been doing this stuff for 32 years. He's the one that recommended this color scheme. We fully support that idea. We want the property to look as nice as it can look. And while we believe that the staff fully considered matters, we just think that they didn't consider, or if they considered Section 4, they didn't sufficiently consider it to look at the property and the issue from our angle. I would also, in sort of an offhanded way, but not, I don't mean this in a smart alecky way, but in 2017, the commission gave us permission to paint the house light gray and the trim dark gray. And that's still a good authority. If we have to put the yellow brick on, I suppose I have the option to paint it gray, but I don't want to do that. I respect the neighborhood and I respect the commission. But I don't want the yellow. And we are asking you to modify the staff's commission recommendation to change it from the yellow that they're requiring, because it is not a distinctive color. It is not anything special to the house anymore. And because of the changed circumstances, we ask you to approve this color. Yes, that's it right there. I brought it in case you wanted to look at it.
Just curious, what year did you buy the home?
We bought the home in 1977.
So what you're doing is really asking us to make a decision based on disregarding all of the previous history of the house.
Well, twofold. That's a good point. Yes, because you didn't have jurisdiction over it before, then you didn't pick up.
But it's the history of the home. It's not just when you don't just say you freeze the district to the snapshot of time. It's the era of significance of the house. So when we look back to why is the home significant? Why is the collection of homes in the neighborhood significant? They date back to a certain era, genre, look, or appeal. And to say that the yellow brick or cream brick has no significance is actually probably maybe one of the weakest arguments presented. It is probably, the chimney itself is character defining. The match of that cream to the stone on your house on the entire first floor is a pretty significant feature. To say that you could just go and paint the brick, though, is actually wrong. That directly violates the guideline. There's a whole section on, the commission has never really approved painting of brick.
We don't intend to do that. I just brought that point up. We're supportive of your guidelines, but we don't see the yellow as distinctive on this house with the changed circumstances.
It would be interesting in time if the next owner came forward and said, I did some research, and when the house was built in, it's like a 1930s home.
38.
38. They may come to us and say, I found the original 1938 color of this home, and indeed it wasn't gray, and I'm going to go back to it. And that would be the most appropriate decision ever. And really, that would probably be more of a compelling case to repaint this house yet again. But we wouldn't want to make a decision now to change history to negate the fact that we know that the chimney is or was in 1938 onward a cream color.
But it needs to be replaced now. With the leak, it needs to be repaired and replaced.
Yes.
So now's the time to move from the yellow, which doesn't fit the color scheme of the house.
Because you changed the color scheme of the house,
Because-
not because in 1938 when the home is significant in its era and is historically significant back to 1938, but to decide to change the color now to fit the current modern trend is not preservation or historically sensitive.
It's been changed, the color has been reaffirmed 3 different times in 1983, in the early 2000s, and again in 2017. It's been gray. It's been gray for.
But part of that is because the gray was already there and it got reaffirmed, right? And that's where the replacing in kind is permitted. Whereas if you were making a color change, like let's say you wanted to paint it orange instead of the color that it already was, that commission would most likely say, no, orange isn't appropriate. But because it was already that color, it could tend to get approved. For example, there have been areas where CMU has been used, and sometime in maybe the 1960s, and it has become a referring to section 4 there, that has now become part of the building, and somebody wants to replace it in kind, we would allow them to do that. Whereas if they wanted to put the CMU in now, we would say no, because it's not replacing in kind, number one. Number two, it'd be a new feature. It wouldn't be a replacement of something that's become part of the house. Yeah, I can remember a case where that in fact happened. We would never have approved the CMU except for it was there and he was doing it in kind, so it was allowed.
I'm not, here this evening to, in my mind, challenge your great pain. What I am here is to say we have to make the right decision about what we know is the original 1938 brick color. And making sure that work is consistent with the historic guidelines that recognize that component. You have original material. Original material is either repaired or replaced in kind.
Yes, but section 4 says you have to respect and take into consideration the changes that have been made over time. And that, to say that,
Right,
go back to
that cream
1930.
brick has never been changed.
Yes, but the house has. That's why it doesn't fit.
But you're asking us to now change, you're asking us to change history for your convenience because of other modifications.
I don't know that you have the authority to go back and look at 1938. You didn't have jurisdiction, or before 1985 even, you didn't have jurisdiction over the property at that time.
Well, then that's fine. Even if you want to make that case, this cream brick has existed on this chimney since the time it became a district. Hence, that would be then still cream brick. It's still the original material.
Well, it is. I agree. It is the same. It's the same chimney as when I've lived there the whole time.
If for example, in 1970, someone had changed the cream color brick to the gray, and now you wanted to redo the chimney, so you would say, even knowing that it was originally cream, at this point we would say, well, the gray's been there for 50 years, it's a significant part of the house, and therefore we would allow you to replace that in kind with the gray. Because even though originally in 1930, whatever it was, it was cream, that would have become under the section 4, part of the house. And we would not have made you go back to 1930 something. That's what that paragraph refers to. Not trying to match something they've changed elsewhere.
Can I just speak to perhaps why I didn't include that? That particular section is that, as I look at it, so if, say, some of the stone on the front of the house was deteriorating, so you have a whole wall or something, and so and then you say you came to the commission and said, you know, I painted the house gray. I'd like to change all of the stone on the house to gray. For me, the stone, say the stone covering on the house is not something that you change regularly. A chimney is not something that you change regularly. A paint color is something that people do change regularly. So that's why I look at it that way. And paint colors tend to go in trend.
I think we agree with, seems like we agree with the yellow speed. Yeah.
I mean, I agree with the staff recommendation that it is appropriate to use a replacement brick that is in green. I'm only one vote. There are other commission members here.
Do we vote? How do we do?
Well, I would say just, you know, give the property owner the usual options of, vote, which it seems like possibly that would be the denial, or would he be willing to modify that?
Right.
So I guess.
So, right, really, this is up to you. We can make a decision based on what you presented. I don't think I'm hearing favorable support for that. We can ask if you want to consider any modification to your application, which might consider the comments discussed here or the staff report.
I'm not sure the last time I was here was like 30 years ago or something, and there was really not much of an issue on that. This is altogether different. I'm not sure what other option there is.
So I think that too, what we're saying is that there are a couple of options. You can afterwards, you can tell us that you agree that you will go back to the yellow, and then we might say, okay, then we can move it to staff approval. You don't have to come back. And we can say we accept it with, on the condition that the brick will be yellow. So you'll make that change, work with Connie, and it's done. Or you might say, no, I would like it to stay gray, and please vote on it, and we will vote. And what Chairman's saying is that it's likely that you will get a denial based on the discussion, and then you have to read through the process. If you want to come back at a future date or come up with a new proposal or whatever. But if you want to keep it as is, then we can vote, and you'll likely get a denial.
So it's a denial or.
And if you also, a third thing would be if you want to think about all of that, they could continue it and you could come back next month. Think.
Yeah.
If you're just not sure about what.
And if I get the denial, I can appeal it.
You can feel it.
Your ruling is that the color is a distinctive feature of the house.
I would support that the color of that chimney is a very distinctive feature.
So if I don't take the denial, what do I say?
If you want time to think about it,
Yeah,
you could ask them to continue it.
continue.
And then you come back.
And just staying in touch, by the way, with Connie, as you make other decisions, have other ideas, we just ask you to continue to have communication so she knows what, you may make a decision that all of a sudden you say, hey, this is what I want to do, Connie, and she presents it during a business meeting and you don't even have to come back here because it gets a staff approval. There are other opportunities for approval. It doesn't always necessarily mean you're coming back to this meeting.
while I'm unhappy, I'm not angry with the commission. I mean, I understand the commission has a duty to do, and I respect that. And I also respect the staff. I still support the idea of the historic district. I just disagree with your decision.
We appreciate that too.
Pardon?
We appreciate that too.
In the case of, HR -22-05-026, 167 Rusty Place, I move to continue.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion passes. Case number 20-475 North High Street.
Jim.
Thank you. It's been a long agenda, so thank you. If you could both raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth in your testimony before the commission this evening?
I do.
If you could each state your full name and affiliation with the property to record.
Yes, I'm Matt Toddy, architect at Astor Studios, design professional responsible for the project.
Greg Tishkoff, I'm the owner of the business.
Mr. Chair, I'm recusing.
Okay. For the record, please note that applies confusing. And note specifically on the files proximity.
Yes. Proximity.
Okay, so this is, project is to expand the rooftop patio, expand existing rooftop patio and a screen wall. Per the submitted drawings, deck to be constructed of 4x4 wood post and 2x12 decking. May 5th business meeting comments have included, provide information about who owns the building and their approval for any proposed work. Rather than, the business owner. Provide information about what was originally approved and what, work may have been done without certificate of appropriateness. Based on file drawings and Google views, it appears that additional elements have been added to the original 1996 rooftop patio approval. Since 2011, additional wall features, height, and signage are visible from the street. A seasonal vinyl drop is installed to enclose the patio during winter season. While some of these elements may have been installed for several years, the overall patio design and signage should be discussed to determine all existing conditions and what work may or may not have been approved and brought before the commission. Additional discussion with the property and or business owner is needed to determine the appropriate steps forward before approval of any additional rooftop patio space. And so I provided the previous drawings, which, as an architect, I can't discuss it, but the other commissioners can look at those drawings to try to determine, what appears to have been before. I was looking at Google views, and what early on was shown seemed to be quite a bit more minimal than what is existing today.
Yeah, it looks like there's no sort of enclosure at all above the roof railing. Yeah, there's some drawings in the file here that I think you've included that really, there you go.
Still a little fuzzy on what this material was here. Is that material that's there, that's the wall, or is that, how long have you been associated with the property?
We purchased the business in 2012.
Yeah, see, so,
We did that. We did a substantial amount of work. We didn't do any addition, just cosmetic, but a significant amount of cosmetic.
did you have the vinyl cover, the seasonal cover?
Yes, we did, but it's due to the nature of what our ultimate plan is for the addition of the patio, that seasonal cover wouldn't fit anymore.
You wouldn't use it. That's probably a good thing.
So just, and also like just so I'm clear, the business is in the building next door.
It's very confusing.
And then is this an easement across this roof, or how is this accomplished? Just so we're clear, we make sure, because again, I just want to make sure we've got the
So
right.
Novak's is, it's
The right three windows, if you will.
the right three windows on the second floor.
Okay.
You enter in the right door, the very right door of that right building. The middle door leads into what was previously the Japanese steakhouse kitchen. So that's, that small amount of space is a, kind of parceled off as a different business altogether. Everything our patio is over is now, as of recently, Agave and Rye, which is a new business. It was, prior to that, it was Fuzzy's Tacos.
You'll be getting a sign for that next.
Okay.
And the owner of that entire building is Josh Greenberg.
So my only question is, do we make sure we have the owner's consent to these changes? Because
Yeah.
these changes are not on your property. That's what, it's just a legal question.
Well, I have zero concern about that. I mean, he's not here, but he and I discussed this project. He's,
If anything, the only thing I want to do is make sure, Connie, you have something for file that acknowledges, it could be it could be something in writing that acknowledges from him to Connie for file that deed.
He just wants to make sure he won't approve it until it's approved by, it's kind of chicken or the egg.
Right.
but-
I just gotta make sure we're jurisdictionally correct as well. Just- So let's go back to what the proposal is here, the actual alterations.
Yeah,
And actually, even if, what was approved then was there when you got there, or if the previous owner had taken things down, put new things up, I'm just not clear on that because they never sought approval. And weren't caught at it.
yeah, so I think maybe we can help fill some of those holes in.
That's the thing.
Because I think, right, since you guys have purchased the canopy was added, and that went through proper permitting procedures through the Signage, the canopy company.
But not through our office, which it should.
That we don't have information on. And honestly, it could have been a situation like we're in today, which is we submitted the permit documents to the building department and it was flagged. And that's on me as a design professional. It was unintentional, but the building department flagged, right? So that's why we're here today. So maybe I speculative that could very well happen before. No malintent involved, but
We're just trying to figure out.
yeah, to our understanding, everything was permitted appropriately. Whether or not, in fact, it actually came through this body. But the scope today, the project that we're here to talk about is actually extremely minimal. We're just essentially moving an existing screen wall that's up there on that roof patio about 8 feet to the east to add about 160 square feet to this. So Connie, I think I
go to like the last couple of pages, I think.
I sent you some photos showing like two. So so this would be the new condition. So we're moving that screen wall east to align with the corrugated steel condition. If you click the previous page, that's the existing. So you can see we're just kind of shifting that screen wall back.
You're just taking it.
We're just moving it back, yeah. And that creates 160 square feet of additional patio space.
What does it look like from front? I think at the end, go to the very end. 2 pieces. So right, is that what? Yeah, click on that. So is that what it's going to look like when it's done?
That's existing. So we did not alter this photo.
Okay.
This is existing. So you can imagine, where the black canopy above kind of recedes, that screen wall would be back in line with that.
Click to the next photo then.
Could I just have
So like, what is that?
So that is the seasonal enclosure that we had been using over the winter. I just can't figure out. You go to okay. Yeah, it's a garage door. It's for security for all our like TVs and Bigger, you know, if there's a bar up on the roof, so.
So there's a little bit more construction that's happened since.
Yeah.
the drawings were-
That is the canopy that I was discussing had been added in.
Cause like
as far as
I
we
don't,
know.
in the original, in these last drawings that we saw prior to your ownership, it doesn't even show a garage door and all this other stuff.
Right, right. So that was all permitted, whether
Or not.
It seems unclear that it went through this body, but it was all permitted appropriately. Again, I can't speak to whether the building department filtered it through here.
It would be good if we had that record. That doesn't happen very often anymore.
No, correct.
But it did used to happen. Right?
So this is not the future.
This is existing.
This is existing.
Six.
So going
So
to,
go change it.
I was gonna say, go to the last picture. So is this thing gonna be extruded then down?
No.
No, that's not there.
Just yeah, we have to ignore this picture as well.
That was taken, it must have been taken prior to,
It's a Google photo.
Yeah, that's the seasonal enclosure.
So I'm just trying to figure out, like, what does this thing look like
What's it
at the end of this?
Yeah.
it'll look,
So
if you go back to that last.
yeah, if you go back to one photo there, that's unchanged. We're not touching that.
Unfortunately, that's.
Can I point here?
Yeah.
So we're not touching. This all stays, it's existing. That's sort of the mystery, we don't really know. Or all we're touching is this. This gets shifted back about 8 feet east.
So once it shifts back from my view, from this photo, what will I see on
You will
that?
see another one of these walls on the side of this that encloses the side.
So it just wood slats or something?
Right, and then again, on the north side.
It's kind of a dipper shape right now. We're just making it a rectangle.
Is the architectural plan in the package, might be close to the top. Take a look at the plan. Yep, down page 4 or 5. There it is.
The plan is easy to understand. The problem is the elevation.
Elevation is-
We're missing the elevation. What does this thing look like looking at it?
Yeah, right now, this wall is right here.
Yep. Right, you're just taking and moving it back. I got that part 100%.
Yeah.
I just want to know what it looks like in the,
What are you putting
the
in front of
elevation.
it? What is the side of it?
Yeah.
It's the same exact screen wall, just getting relocated. It's all that wooden slab. So it's exactly what you see today, just 8 feet more of it.
No, but once you're pushing it back, now there are things exposed in the front, right? That's what we're trying to.
So that's this right here. So it's right here. We're moving it back and
You're making a new piece there?
making it, yeah.
Yes, do we have an image or an elevation of that piece? What is that piece? Is it matching the wall?
It matches, yes, the sheet of photos. You can see a
Yeah.
picture of
Yeah, walk it.
Oh, there.
Yeah. So see it's here now. So that gets into this corner. This section gets moved back to this beam.
Okay, and then after that happens, though, what happens, I mean, are you gonna be coming back for another awning extension above, or is it just gonna be open to the air?
The only reason we have that on and where it is just to cover the bar. That's where.
Yeah, this is something.
Okay, but here's what I'm trying to get to, so is, you know, you didn't have any of these things in the last packet. At some point, somewhere, sometime, this thing shows up, this shows up, I'm saying,
that's
after you do
unfortunate.
this, or you can all of a sudden start extending this thing over.
That's none of that's also, that's not there. So
And to be fair, I don't know that it's fair to speculate that unpermitted work will be done in the future. I think we have.
I'm not, but I'm just trying to understand, like, is there another submittal coming after this then?
I don't know that we have that information. Right, this is seasonal. We already know that it doesn't work with the expansion, so.
But it's up, okay, I'm still confused. You're saying that seasonal stuff is gonna now become permanent?
Yeah.
That's what he's telling me, it's gonna be removed?
it's already been removed and it.
Okay.
This has already been removed.
That's an
It's
old thing.
seasonal, and it no longer fits once we expand it, so it's not going back up.
So it's not going up, it's going on forever, it's gone.
that particular, I mean,
Yeah.
clearly we need to, unbeknownst to me, we would need to apply for.
If that would want to come back, I think we would. That's the way it is. That's not part of the scope that we're proposing today.
I'm trying to get clarity on the scope because it's not clear because we don't have elevations. You just got a plan. And then you say, I'm just gonna move these walls, but then all these other photos show the closed areas. And I'm just trying to get to, what do you ultimately want to do? Again, part of our job is just to make sure you've got a comprehensive packet that you don't get judged wrong in the future, right? We do say, hey, we did approve something and it's perfect.
But 10 years from now, somebody say, how did the commissioners approve that? What was it thinking? So I guess we need some more material. It seems like it makes sense. But we need to see.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly don't object to it. I just want to make sure that we're documented.
Yeah.
Would it be possible to move this to a staff approval if we provide, say, elevations or, the additional information?
You should see that the business.
I don't know if I would, just because of the history of it, and it's a little confusing. I don't know if I'd feel comfortable with that, if the commission would feel comfortable with submitting a drawing that would go to one commissioner or maybe even two commissioners now, because that would not be can't be a quorum, as a think of the term, as a committee to look at it.
Can it come
Then
to
when I
us?
received it, I would email it to you.
I think I would feel okay if it got to the business meeting, moved it to staff.
That's what I was.
If it's comprehensive enough for the business meeting, then we can say, let's just move it to staff approval because it reflects what we've all talked about.
Yeah, I mean, I think we can definitely provide elevations showing those two walls and
Yeah.
what's existing and what's.
Philosophically, what you're doing, if you're just picking this piece up, moving it and redoing it with a section that matches it, I think I'm there already on it.
If we just need to see it, I think we should.
Yeah, I understand it seems way more complicated than it.
There's just some additional photos here and just trying to just sort through it all. Just want to make sure all the boxes are checked.
Practice for those Google reviews.
I mean, it basically all it is going to look like this, but it's going to be moved back.
Yeah.
There's gonna be two more umbrellas up there probably, right? Yeah.
Except it will still have that huge no backs pad.
Right.
That's my.
It's going to look like this with that piece moved back. Connie, between now and the business meeting, you have your work cut out for you. You can figure out that whole Novex patio thing. That's not our decision in purview right now, right?
You also have ground level patio, Novex patio signs in the back there.
We don't have any.
Take that away. I was
We
just
have,
looking around.
There's a sign for it.
Yeah, we have just a little thing that covers the door.
Okay, so
We don't have any.
I guess maybe I'll take a walk up there so I can understand the students see.
Connie, would it help? I know it's access is hard. Would it make sense to arrange access for you to be to get up there and see it?
So then I could picture everything that's there.
I can help coordinate that for you.
Again, I'm not, and that's the thing is I want to make it clear that when this comes back into the business meeting, we're not really debating the Novex patio piece right now, but what we are giving you guidance on is that generally we're supportive of moving that piece back and let's just get a drawing of that, that's being proposed.
Yeah.
Right now, if there's other issues that need to come up, that's TBD based on
As
other
a
research.
staff person, it would be, what I have to look into now. When was that put up, which, this is 2016. But you're saying that you did not put that sign up?
Oh, no, I did put that stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. But I'm trying to think when.
And by the way, sometimes there are cases where there has been, I mean, I can think of at least 2 or 3 maybe where that you may have a valid permit for that.
We have no reason to believe it was fully permitted appropriately. No reason to expect otherwise.
So we'll need to look into that. I think that. Isn't it so large, it doesn't meet the guidelines?
So let me just add some clarity in case we're missing that piece. The work we did when we opened and we did the construction up on the patio
did not include that. That was added after, maybe a year or two after we. So
Is it painted on or what is it? What is it?
I think it's vinyl.
It's vinyl lettering
I
of the
believe
fabric.
So I'm guessing 2014, 15 is what it would have been.
And, you know, you would think that the code officer who works at that area would have noticed it, but
So the other thing you may want to do, Connie, is keep in mind too, because this is on the adjoining building, when you're looking at addresses for permits, it may be permitted under the other address and not under their address.
because even on file.
It's got an unusual condition here,
on file,
multiple
even
addresses.
saying 473 to 479. But you see where I'm coming from.
That's the, I think that's the, where 473 is, but.
And it may have changed over the years.
Can I ask one clarification? It sounds like maybe we're getting two different signals that,
Yeah, I'm talking about what I'm gonna have to look into.
Sure.
And they're saying, you know, they're not looking at that
So-
tonight because it's not on.
okay, so just so we can be prepared for schedule and everything that is gonna come out of this, will our approval of the proposed work be subject to whatever information gathering we need to do for the?
No, I'm assuming there's no other issue with any other thing, that we're only looking at any clarification of the work you've proposed.
So I look into it with code.
If a code officer brings up a case, that's this other piece, that's a whole different discussion.
Fair enough, that helps.
What have we done? Are you continuing it?
Motion to continue, yes.
Ready?
Yeah.
Yeah, 20.
Yes.
Making a motion to continue HR 2205-027 for 75 North High Street.
You making the motion, I will second that. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. No opposed and no abstentions.
One recusal.
He's recused, so.
Thank you.
Okay, so then you, the drawing that they were talking about, you think that should be by next Thursday? And then chairs for next meeting.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Okay, let the record reflect, Clyde is coming back.
Yes. I'm here.
And on to case number 21, which is a conceptual application for 4914 Olentangy Boulevard.
Thank you.
It's okay, I thought I was late. It's all good.
Sometimes you never know what these mean. Just raise your right hand real quick. Do you swear to tell the truth, the testimony, witness this evening?
I do.
And full name and association with the property.
Amelia Jo Jeffers, and I'm the owner.
Wonderful, thank you. Hi.
Okay, so the proposal is to remove existing door and sign lights on the sunroom for openings total. Install 4 salvaged French doors for the submitted photos. Recessed trim to match existing window and door trim on the sunroom. Paint French doors to match the existing front door, which is a brown bronze color. May 5th business meeting comments include provide an overall view of the house, including the main house and sunroom, which we got those additional photos. Some exploratory removal of one of the plywood panels being rebuilt out of materials that was original and covered over. The 1951 Sanborn map and the 1937 Columbus plat map indicate that the sunroom was an open porch at that time. So I'm wondering about this. I haven't been out there and looked at it closely, but I noticed a side view shows.
Go back. Photo
It's like
right there.
some of it's a really good photo, and it's just a slab.
Oh, click up. 2 more. Yep, is that one?
Well, it shows it here, and there's one that shows on the side too. So I'm wondering if, you know, it was an open porch and then it was at some time built. But those windows, we still don't know what's underneath the plywood. So I think we just need some discussion with the owner and with the commission to sort of discover what's will be appropriate here.
Go stop right there. I think it's that photo maybe, Connie.
That's it right there.
Slide up right there.
Yeah.
And then going to the next photo down. scroll down up. So the question we started having is, so see how you've got a kind of a classic door with a panel at the bottom? We started wondering if somebody put plywood and replaced the lower sections from that window down, because the decorative millwork had started to kind of rot after they enclosed the porch potentially.
Oh, I see. I don't know. On the inside of the, well, I guess what I would say is, and I can provide these photos, but on the inside of the room, it's also stucco, right? But below the windows, it is wood. And it's mismatched wood to anything else in the house.
Yeah, and I actually found something online and I included that in here.
Oh, yeah, probably from a prior, yeah.
So,
yeah. It is, yeah, it is. And the French doors that I salvaged are from a Tudor home the same age as my house. And they're matching and fit the openings. And on the, so that, on the photo with the, what you're describing is the slab on the front, that's the slab, it's not a step.
it's the floor. It's the floor.
That one.
Yeah, it's just probably, I mean, when this was an open porch, I think this was just the porch slab, it went right out. That was it, there were no windows in the opening. I mean, of course, that's a little conjecture, but I mean, if the plat maps are telling us that the Sanborns, unless it was an open porch, it seems like.
It is, yeah.
An open porch.
Just by chance, someone sent me a photo of a current house, which was very similar. It's stuccoed and it had an open porch like this still. And so one of the issues is that the number 4, which, you know, Mr. Melly thought I should have used, but I didn't think applied in that case, you know, I think would apply in this, which says changes which have taken place over the course of time are evidence of the property's history and environment, and these changes may have acquired significance in their own right. And if so, this significance shall be respected. And so when the commission looks at that, they have to decide, are those windows what's appropriate,
right,
rather than
than
what would match the house.
A sunroom now. I mean, as it's been enclosed and is a sunroom currently, there's also like an HVAC issue in there, so it doesn't get great ventilation. And, you know, the proposal was that if there are French doors, we can open and get cross breezes and it can actually function more as a porch than currently with windows that are pretty old and have been restored, but can't open and aren't insulated and aren't, you know.
That into itself is the challenging part, is when there's a modification such as this work. I mean, these do look like pretty old windows, glazed windows. And
Do the windows in the sunroom match the windows of the rest of the house? They appear to in the photograph, but it's hard to tell.
It's pretty hard to tell in person too. I mean, they're close, so I would say they're close, if not a solid match. But the doors on the exterior of the house don't match anything. And, you know, that's a challenge too, like finding a door to replace in the sunroom, that opening, if you look at the back door in the sunroom, yeah, it's sort of not a great fit.
But nonetheless, it's wooden divided lights.
Yeah. But the feeling was that the French doors would return it to more of a use of the port as a porch because it's fully enclosed now.
And your goal to put French doors is at one end, at both ends?
All 4 spaces.
So both ends and the two.
And the 2 side lights.
The 2 alongside.
Yeah,
And
so
then-
creating it more like being able to open those doors and have more of a porch kind of environment.
So how many French doors are you putting in total?
There would be 4 sets. There are 4 sets of matching doors from a similar porch in Cincinnati.
Okay.
And then when we go to Your proposal picture, it had a lot of trim around.
That was a mess. I asked actually that that photo be removed.
Okay.
Yeah, that was a hot.
It would
mess.
be like, it would just be butted.
It would be like
to
that, but
the stucco.
the doors and they would be painted. Yeah, that was
And,
that was a late night.
We got very confused with that.
I know, I asked that it be removed.
and
Put a note at the top of your.
Okay, yeah, yeah,
the proposed French doors will fit the openings exactly.
pretty close. Yeah, they would have to be the recessed trim that is, that exists on the back door of the sunroom right now would be mimicked and then painted just like that and painted like the doors and the window and the rest of the house.
And going back to photo page 12 right there, that's from your.
Correct. It's carpeted.
You won't have any side lights on the side after the French doors?
No. The French doors would take up the openings.
Wow.
So these are pretty good size. How wide are the French doors? Because that looks like
Yeah, these look like very
looks like a
wide.
36-inch door, doesn't it? Or, I mean, it's hard to tell because maybe it's a short door.
No, like each door, I'm gonna do off the top of my head, I can look it up. Each door is like 30 inches, I wanna say.
But if each
And
door
they're
is like 30 inches,
Chairs.
I think about each door being 30 inches, saying like there's 7 of them here and 7 of them here, because this is huge.
So those windows are only 15 inches wide?
No, I would have to get the measurements and everything.
I mean,
So
there's a question of concept versus documentation, which is like,
Well,
we
and
should be
also,
okay with the French doors first.
right, because, I mean, I might be able to buy the argument that says, okay, these weren't original windows, it has a piece of plywood on the bottom, this is a piece of plywood, maybe that's pretty recent, maybe they tried to match the windows, we don't really know when this was infilled. So that's a pretty persuasive argument. And however, then there's the second issue of if that door and side lights is let's say 8 feet, and you're going to infill it with something that's 3.5 feet. What happens to the rest of it? And then we end up with an issue that we often face where someone wants to put in a smaller window into an existing opening. One of the things that we've been consistent about is maintaining the original openings. So even if we can buy the idea of, and I think I can be persuaded there, of okay, these aren't original windows. Are they going to fit the opening? And I think we need to see that. We need to see.
I think a measure of drawing.
can I ask? Yeah, and so because this is conceptual, like I did it so that I could get your feedback and bring back an application that would hopefully be approved.
Okay.
So what would be the recommendation? So I know that the dimensions are not that dramatic, but what would be the recommendation? Like, is there play? In other words, I know that for the rear opening, it was like 4 inches on each side that it was off by the time you case in the windows, at the French doors with the existing opening. And so in that case, the plan was going to be to submit like just recessed trim that's only slightly wider than what already exists there. Do you see what I mean? But if it's more than that, what are you saying? That I would need to do?
That has been our issue, or it has been. We get people that say, on a historic home, and they say, well, I went to Lowe's or Depot, and I can only find a window that's this size in stock. And, they want to block down perimeter, and that is where we have to say, unfortunately, that doesn't meet the guidelines.
Mm-hmm.
These are doors as opposed to windows. So, maybe a heavier framing might be more appropriate than because you've got a casing around, whereas a window casing is pretty standard, but you got something stocky, you're generally hitting a door, particularly with masonry. So, I don't know. I think we'd have to see it.
I think the best thing you could do is prepare a measured drawing that has the sizes of because your fixed variables, your salvage doors.
Mm-hmm.
Which I suppose the other possibility is your salvage doors, are you gonna ultimately paint them?
To match everything.
Yeah, you might be able to add additional wood to your salvage doors on the sides. There's another
Thank you for
possibility.
talking through this with me, by the way.
And,
Yes.
and that would increase the size of your door, and that would make them then fit your fitting bed.
And that would be acceptable?
Well, we'd have to see it again.
I understand.
You know, because we can't design it for you.
Right.
I think what we're saying to help you is that the size of the opening needs to stay as an opening.
Yeah.
But there could be a case made, I'm hearing also for, you know, like my front door, that the casing would be a little more substantial than the existing window casings.
True.
And potentially I could add wood on the French doors themselves since they'll be painted so that the opening remains the same and the door sway.
Really, whomever's doing this really has to think about, you know, if it's you or whomever your contractor
Yeah,
or
you can
designer
see there.
is to think about the fact that you need to think about the jam condition, the head of the jam condition, how that looks. But I mean, this is your front door?
Mhm.
I mean, if you tell us, okay, well, I'm gonna mimic the detail around the door so that there's this, you know, in my mind, there's this frame piece and then there's this secondary insert piece.
That's the recommendation. I mean, that was
I would
the
say that-
original application was that I would mimic it.
Right.
I would say that as long as you prepare a drawing for that that reflects that, then that's probably something a lot more acceptable.
Okay. And then the French doors are not, you think that it's not unreasonable to request in an application that the French doors replace the windows with all of those things being.
It was originally an open door.
Yeah. You got some good arguments. One, it was originally an open porch. There were doors and windows put on there, which are not original. So I guess we can say, well, okay, it's already been enclosed, so okay, you're kind of closing an enclosed porch that's already been enclosed. So under section 4, we need to take that into consideration as now it's a feature as an enclosed things, but the windows themselves may or may not be significant. It's a real gray, but I think there's some arguments to be made.
I mean, there were sleeping porch kits available for homes for retrofit.
And I think one of the things you got going for you is that those panels under those existing windows are plywood, which means it was not done in 1932. It was done sometime probably post 60s.
Who knows?
Right. And since this is conceptual, we don't have to vote. Do you have any other questions for us?
No,
Okay.
thank you.
Okay. Is there any other? There's no business.
Sorry. Staff approved applications. Is there any old business coming? No. Okay. Hearing having no more new business, no more old business, I move to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Wonderful. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are officially adjourned here at 7:25.
Your ability to run an hour meeting.
This was a long agenda. And you know what?